Secondly, the focus should be on developing the technology sector. Utilizing system rewards and technical data redeemed from the in-game store, the scale of the Yunnan Research Institute will be expanded. This will greatly promote China's rapid development in the field of science and technology and hopefully enable China to far surpass other countries globally. She hopes to see China transform from a superpower into a true superpower in her lifetime. In the area of people's livelihood, in addition to continuing her active involvement in philanthropy, the focus should be placed on the two key areas of healthcare and pharmaceuticals. On the one hand, no effort should be spared in increasing research efforts to develop treatments for terminal illnesses and various intractable diseases. On the other hand, it is necessary to continuously increase resource investment in medical services for the general public. And Yunxi's Shilin Hospital is actually an elite hospital, primarily serving the wealthy. Initially, Yunxi planned to open a chain of hospitals under another brand, mainly providing medical services to ordinary people. However, after in-depth and detailed market research, it was discovered that this should be done by public hospitals. After all, this involves numerous issues such as medical insurance reimbursement. If this path is not feasible, then efforts should be focused on medical equipment and pharmaceuticals. If the prices of imported and expensive medical equipment and various medicines can be successfully reduced, the cost of medical care for ordinary people will be significantly lowered. Therefore, given the current situation, the most effective strategy is undoubtedly to rely on its own resources to conduct research and development and achieve independent production. With the system's online marketplace as a backing, Yunxi has no worries about failing to achieve this. Furthermore, a comprehensive park combining modern agriculture, agricultural product processing, tourism, and scientific research services centered around the Nanshan Ecological Park can be replicated in suitable provinces. This will not only promote the diversified development of the local economy but also create numerous job opportunities and drive the prosperity and progress of surrounding areas. In short, with technology, capital, and resources, succeeding is incredibly easy. As for assets like land and real estate, use them if you can and rent or sell what you can't. Of course, selling them out is extremely rare, because Yunxi felt that these assets might come in handy later. To arrange these plans, Yunxi once again summoned the heads of her businesses to Beijing. December 10th, Beijing. In a spacious, bright, and luxuriously decorated conference room at the Yunfeng International Conference Center, the atmosphere was exceptionally solemn and serious. Yunxi sat upright in the chair, her gaze slowly sweeping over everyone present. At this moment, seeing this continuously growing and excellent management team before her, an indescribable feeling welled up deep within her. She couldn't help but recall 8 years ago, before she even entered university, when the system hadn't been unlocked, and she herself was just a minor, unable to do anything she wanted. She considered many methods, but all were difficult to implement due to practical problems. Ultimately, she could only use the name of her so-called mentor to provide some financial assistance to her family, and this mentor advised Jianhua to resign and start his own business, which finally changed the family's financial situation. Who could have predicted that, with the powerful assistance of the system, Yunxi would achieve such remarkable success, possessing such a vast business empire and enormous wealth? Even she herself finds it hard to believe when she recalls this legendary experience, as if it were all a dream. Many of this group already have net worths of tens of millions, or even hundreds of millions, all having become upper-middle-class elites. Yunxi treats them well, with salaries and benefits among the best in the country. In addition, they receive substantial dividends from the company every year. Some exceptionally high performers have even received original shares from Yunxi. This is the only time of year they all have the opportunity to gather together. So, before Yunxi arrived, everyone present seized the opportunity to communicate and exchange information about their recent situations and experiences. When Yunxi entered the conference room with her assistant, everyone immediately stopped talking and held their breath, waiting for the meeting to officially begin. At this moment, everyone's face revealed a look of anticipation, mixed with an irrepressible excitement, because they all knew that their boss was about to make a big move again. sitting down in the main seat of the conference room, and Yunxi glanced around, taking in everyone's tense and prepared expressions. Then she smiled and said jokingly, "We're all family here today. No need to be so nervous." "Boss, isn't this about a big move? We're so excited." One of them said excitedly. Another person quickly chimed in. "Exactly. Me too. I've been looking forward to it since yesterday." At this moment, someone interjected, "Hey, what's the big deal? This is just basic stuff for the boss." "Listen to that. TSK, 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 it's so? What was it again? I can't remember right now." Another person muttered, scratching their head. A nearby person immediately reminded him, "You mean it's to Versailles?" Yes, that's exactly what it said. I don't understand a lot of the language young people use these days." The other person nodded in sudden realization. The person referred to as Versailles innocently retorted, "I don't own a Versailles. Isn't what I said true?" Everyone chimed in. "Yeah, that's true. A lot of people envy me for working for a boss." "That's right. My hometown county government even gave me an award last time." This immediately sparked a wave of agreement. "You got one too? What a coincidence." "Me too, haha. The county head even received me. My family really values me now." "Me too. I donated money to the county to build a road, and now everyone in my hometown knows me." And so, everyone chatted animatedly, creating a lively atmosphere. And Yunxi, seated at the head of the table, smiled quietly, watching the enthusiastic discussion without intervening, allowing them to freely share their thoughts and feelings. The conversation gradually subsided and finally fell silent after the assistant distributed the proposal prepared by Yunxi to everyone. Everyone was intently reviewing the proposal. The conference room was completely silent. Everyone was focused on this important document. For a moment, the room was so quiet that only the soft sounds of breathing could be heard, like ripples on a still lake in a gentle breeze. The occasional rustling of papers and the crisp sound of pages turning broke the silence like musical notes, constantly reminding everyone that others were present. After a long while, Yang Wei, who had finished reviewing the proposal first, slowly raised her head, her face beaming with undisguised excitement. Her eyes were fixed intently on Yunxi, and she asked impatiently, "Boss, is Yunfeng Capital also going to expand into the international market? In the past few years, Yunfeng Group has risen like a dazzling new star, rapidly gaining prominence in the business world. Its rapid development is astonishing. Not only has it established a large-scale headquarters in Beijing, the capital city, but it has also successfully established numerous branches in bustling metropolises like Shanghai, innovative cities like Shenzhen, Wuhan, a transportation hub connecting 9 provinces, and Chengdu, the land of abundance. Even in Hong Kong, known as the Pearl of the Orient, its branch officially opened and began operations this October. With the strong and renowned Yunnan Research Institute as a solid backing, Yunfeng Group doesn't need to travel far and wide to find investment projects. Many high-quality projects were secured by Yunfeng from the very inception of the Yunnan Research Institute. Yunfeng Capital, as an angel investor, provides funding and then finds people to operate and implement these projects. Why not operate them themselves? The reason is simple. Yunnan Research Institute has too many technological achievements. Operating them all themselves is impractical. Therefore, unless it's a particularly important technological achievement, the institute generally collaborates with other companies. Some collaborations involve directly selling the technology, but most involve profit sharing. Even if the institute only takes 5% or 10% of the profits, the combined revenue from so many projects is still a huge sum. Moreover, Yunnan Research Institute possesses many heavyweight technologies. Times have changed. Today, Yunnan Research Institute has long since escaped the predicament of needing a constant influx of funds from Yunxi to maintain operations. It has not only achieved self-sufficiency, but also generates substantial profits for Yunxi every year. This unique advantage has allowed Yunfeng Capital to stand out in the fierce market competition and steadily move towards a broader space for development. Yunfeng Capital's annual investment has reached 300 billion yuan, and Yunxi's goal for Yang Wei is to increase this figure to over 1 trillion yuan. However, Yunfeng's project selection criteria are always very strict. Therefore, achieving this goal will require considerable time. However, if they can successfully expand into overseas markets, the situation will be completely different. At that time, the range of high-quality projects available to them will expand significantly. The thought of Yunfeng Capital one day becoming a world-renowned investment company fills Yang Wei with uncontrollable excitement. Seeing her subordinates' expectant eyes, and Yunxi nodded and said, "Yes, Yunfeng Capital has already developed very steadily in the domestic market, and its foundation is very solid. It's time to show its strength to the world." She continued, "Not only Yunfeng Capital, but also Nanxi Pharmaceutical, Huaxi Biotechnology, Xingtian Entertainment, and others will be expanding into the international market. Xingtian Entertainment not only needs to succeed in the domestic market, but also needs to focus on the international market, deeply exploring and creating works that cater to the preferences of overseas users. In this process, we must emphasize exporting Chinese culture. Since Western countries can culturally invade us, why can't our great China, with its 5,000 years of history, resist such invasion? This matter must be kept secret for now. I've already reported it to my superiors, and the Ministry of Culture, Douyin Weibo, and others will cooperate with us. We'll discuss the specific details with President Li later, and Yunxi's idea of exporting Chinese culture to the world through film and entertainment works had been swirling in her mind for a long time. She just hadn't had the time to implement it before. Now that she doesn't have to travel around participating in competitions anymore, it's time to make it a reality. To this end, she submitted a 50-page plan. This was a plan meticulously crafted by her think tank over 3 months. Upon retiring from the military, Yunxi met with relevant department leaders and submitted this proposal. The higher authorities attached great importance to Yunxi's proposal, quickly convening 3 important meetings with professionals in the relevant fields to conduct in-depth and detailed discussions and analyses of the plan. After repeated deliberation and weighing of options, they unanimously decided to approve Yunxi's proposal. Shortly afterward, relevant departments actively coordinated and arranged for Yunxi to meet with the heads of relevant companies to discuss how to ensure the effective implementation and successful establishment of the plan. At this crucial meeting, representatives from all parties expressed their opinions and suggestions, engaging in rigorous and thorough discussions on every detail. After a series of intensive preparatory work, this major event concerning the dissemination of Chinese culture was finally finalized. When Yunxi delivered her final instructions, Li Haowen listened attentively, carefully recording every word she said. As soon as Yunxi finished speaking, Li Haowen looked up, his gaze unwavering, and nodded solemnly in response. "Yes, boss." At that moment, Li Haowen deeply felt the weight of responsibility on his shoulders heavier than ever before. But at the same time, a strong passion and soaring fighting spirit surged within him. The boss had informed him of this plan beforehand. If it could truly be realized, it would be a monumental achievement. Regarding Nanxi Pharmaceuticals, the Yunnan Research Institute will be conducting a series of drug studies. Stabilize the current situation first. Once there are results, immediately expand production. Yunxi said with a serious and earnest expression. At the same time, we need to start preparing for talent development now. She looked intently at everyone, emphasizing, "Don't wait until you need people and there are no people to use them." It wasn't that Yunxi didn't want to expand now, but the cycle from drug development to market launch was simply too long. Although the Research Institute has drugs nearing clinical trials, building a production line now is premature. Therefore, all they can do at this stage is prepare for the initial stages. After discussing Nanxi Pharmaceuticals, Yunxi shifted the topic to Huaxi Biotechnology. Unlike Nanxi Pharmaceuticals, Huaxi Biotechnology's products are already relatively mature. Every time the system rewards her with a formula, Yunxi immediately provides it to the Yunnan Research Institute. Such mature formulas don't actually require a long time to produce results. If it weren't for the cumbersome patent application process and the time required for approval, the speed at which research results are translated into practical applications would undoubtedly be even faster. Mr. Zhou of Huaxi Biotechnology, on the one hand, You need to prepare the product range for expanding into the international market and design the packaging and pricing for overseas products. On the other hand, establish overseas branch offices. I'll give you a list in a moment. These are my overseas companies that we can directly cooperate with. For any locations not covered on the list, establish a directly operated branch office there. Complete the selection of the person in charge and the arrangement of relevant personnel as soon as possible. Most of Huaxi Biotechnology's products use formulas provided by the system, with a small portion brought over by Yunxi from the post-apocalyptic world. These formulas are all effective and have few side effects. Because of this, Yunxi has always had unwavering confidence in her company Huaxi's products. Even though the investment required for the directly operated branch office model is relatively large, she is willing to take this step as long as it allows the products to successfully enter the global market. And Yunxi's current idea is still to keep the distribution channels under her own control. She wasn't willing to watch such a golden opportunity to make money fall into the pockets of foreign businessmen. Just then, Zhou Xian, in charge of Huaxi Biotechnology, asked Yunxi, "Boss, where should we start with the overseas market?" After Zhou Xian finished recording Yunxi's key points, he waited for her to give clear instructions. However, Yunxi didn't immediately give a direct answer. Instead, she asked Zhou Xian with interest, "In your opinion, what would be the most appropriate approach?" Zhou Xian had considered this question before. Upon hearing Yunxi's question, Zhou Xian pondered for a moment before calmly replying, "I think the first choice should be the Japanese and South Korean markets, as well as the European and American markets. These regions have developed economies and relatively high purchasing power. If we can successfully establish a foothold and build influence in these places, then expanding into other regional markets will be much easier." Zhou Xian then added, "Also, have we considered building factories overseas? This might help reduce costs and better meet local market demands." Building factories overseas? It's not out of the question, but clearly not now. We'll consider building factories overseas later. Right now, the most important task is to focus on establishing a foothold in the overseas market. It's important to understand that Huaxi Bio's profit margins are sufficient to ship products worldwide from Shanghai and Huacheng, the centers of its operations in China. Furthermore, due to regional differences and market demand, the price of the same product sold overseas will inevitably differ from its price domestically. Therefore, for now, there's no need to focus too much on reducing logistics and transportation costs. "Okay, boss, I know what to do." And Yunxi methodically explained the various plans for different industries to the project leaders. For those parts requiring further discussion and negotiation, everyone spent time in lively discussions until a consensus was reached and a new, more comprehensive plan was developed. As for those plans that didn't require further in-depth discussion and only needed to be implemented step by step, they were simply carried out according to the existing arrangements. Thus, this crucial meeting lasted a full day. As the meeting ended, Yunxi said with a smile, "Everyone worked hard today. It's my treat tonight. Let's relax at the Yunlin Club." Upon hearing this, a cheer erupted from the room. "Great. Thank you, boss. I've been sitting all day. My back is killing me. How about a massage later? Want to come along?" "Sure, no problem. I want to go swimming." "Me too, but I didn't bring my swim trunks." "Just buy a pair, right? The club has everything." The man suddenly realized, "You're right." Night fell like a giant black silk ribbon, gently covering the bustling city. As the sun sets and its afterglow fades, the city lights begin to illuminate the streets and alleys, like twinkling stars. The entire city is instantly filled with dazzling lights, the streets and alleys echoing with laughter and various sounds, a vibrant and bustling atmosphere. Meanwhile, the Yunlin Club, located in a luxurious downtown area, shines like a luminous pearl, radiating a unique and captivating glow. At this moment, a luxury car slowly pulls up in front of the Yunlin Club. The door opens, and a graceful woman with a beautiful face steps out elegantly. She is the owner of this club in Yunxi. "Boss, you've arrived." A cheerful voice breaks the brief silence. And Yunxi turns around and sees Yan Hao, the person in charge of the Yunlin Club, striding towards her with a warm smile. Mr. Yen, is everything arranged? And Yunxi asked with a smile, her beautiful eyes fixed on Yan Hao. Her voice was clear and melodious, like a mountain spring. Yan Hao quickly replied with a smile, "It's all arranged. The club will be closed to the public tonight, exclusively for our own staff. I've also arranged all the service personnel for the various services, so please rest assured." And Yunxi nodded in satisfaction and said softly, "Thank you for your hard work." Then she turned to her assistant, gesturing for them to enter the club together. Yan Hao quickly extended his hand in a guiding gesture and said, "Boss, this way please." And Yunxi, accompanied by her assistant, followed Yan Hao and headed towards the private dining room. Following her, the other executives arrived one after another. As they entered the Yunlin Club, they were immediately captivated by the luxurious yet elegant decor. Looking up, they saw dazzling crystal chandeliers hanging from the ceiling of the lobby. The chandeliers, like twinkling stars in the night sky, emitted a soft yet bright light, illuminating the entire hall. Meanwhile, the floor was paved with flawless, mirror-like marble slabs, so perfect they reflected people's images clearly. Walking among them, one felt as if transported to a dreamlike, wondrous world. A man in the crowd, visiting for the first time, couldn't help but exclaim in amazement. His eyes widened, his face filled with disbelief as he admired everything around him. Before he finished speaking, someone nearby immediately chimed in, "Is this your first time here? Many of Chairman An's properties are like this. You'll get used to it after a while." "Yes, I've heard that every decoration here is incredibly valuable. Even the ingredients are the finest," another person echoed. Hearing this, the man nodded repeatedly in agreement. "Really? I'd love to see it for myself sometime." His face lit up with anticipation, as if he couldn't wait to explore this upscale and luxurious place. Yan Hao, who was leading the way, smiled and said, "Everyone, enjoy yourselves tonight. Not only is the environment first class, but we also have all sorts of entertainment." He then led everyone to the private rooms that had been arranged. Along the way, everyone exchanged pleasantries and chatted, creating a warm and harmonious atmosphere. Upon arriving at the private rooms, Yunxi greeted them all again, her friendly attitude making everyone feel her sincerity and care. Stepping into the private rooms, the decor was even more striking. The entire space was decorated in a warm and romantic style, with soft, warm lighting perfectly illuminating every corner. Each spacious dining table was neatly set with exquisite and beautiful tableware. Clusters of vibrant, fragrant flowers surrounded them, their delicate scent filling the air. Everyone took their seats, and the waiters quickly brought out a series of delicious dishes. "Come on, everyone, raise your glasses. Cheers to all our hard work and achievements over the years." And Yunxi stood up, raising her glass, her eyes shining with confidence and composure. "Cheers!" Everyone responded enthusiastically, the clinking of glasses creating a crisp, melodious sound, like a joyful symphony. Amidst laughter and chatter, everyone savored the sumptuous meal, enthusiastically sharing interesting experiences from their work and the little things in their daily lives. And Yunxi sat quietly to the side, attentively listening to everyone's stories, her beautiful face always radiating a gentle and captivating smile. Deep down, Yunxi saw these company executives not just as business partners, but also as close friends who had accompanied and supported her throughout her life. After a sumptuous dinner, everyone excitedly moved to the entertainment area. To help everyone relax and fully enjoy the time, Yunxi thoughtfully suggested that everyone choose their own activities based on their preferences. Anyway, the Yunlin Clubhouse has quite a few leisure and entertainment options. There's no need for some people to squeeze in with others. As soon as Yunxi finished speaking, the crowd dispersed instantly. Some headed straight for the karaoke rooms, eager to showcase their beautiful singing voices. Others went straight to the pool tables, rubbing their hands together, ready for a thrilling game. Still others were drawn to the comfortable massages and spas, hoping for complete relaxation and rejuvenation after a busy and tiring day. Meanwhile, Yunxi was also moving around the clubhouse, interacting with everyone. When she reached the pool area, She immediately spotted Chu Zi and Xie Qiubai, who were engrossed in playing. One of them was the head of Yunxi's asset management team. He managed Yunxi's vast assets with his outstanding professional skills and keen market insight. The other held the crucial position of Chief Financial Officer, CFO, of Yunfeng Group, responsible for overseeing the group's financial operations and strategic planning. At this moment, the two were completely engrossed in this thrilling billiards match, oblivious to Yunxi, who stood quietly watching from a short distance away. And Yunxi had no idea these two had such a hobby, and they seemed to be quite skilled at it. The two wielded their cues with complete concentration, exchanging shots with practiced precision. A large crowd had gathered around, all watching the exciting match intently. Sometimes they whispered amongst themselves discussing tactics, sometimes they excitedly cheered for the two, offering suggestions and advice. Seeing the two players so focused on their game, and Yunxi didn't disturb them, simply standing quietly in the crowd watching. The two were evenly matched, exchanging blows with equal skill. Occasionally, cheers would erupt from the crowd. From Yunxi's perspective, their abilities were perfectly balanced, a close call. With each shot, the white cue ball accurately struck the object ball, rolling along its predetermined path into the pocket, eliciting bursts of cheers and applause from the onlookers. After the game ended, Yunxi smiled and praised, "Mr. Chu, Mr. Xie, you played very well." Hearing the voice, Chu Zi looked up and saw his boss standing beside him, having watched for some time. He smiled and said, "Emerson, why don't you play a game?" "Sure, I haven't played in ages. This will be a good workout." And Yunxi readily agreed. And Yunxi knew how to play billiards, though not often, but her skill level was decent. Seeing Yunxi nod in agreement, Chu Zi quickly handed her
his cue.
And Yunxi gently took the cue, stood gracefully before the pool table, and prepared to accept her challenge. She leaned slightly forward, her eyes focused intently on the ball, and then gently struck it. In an instant, the white cue ball seemed to come alive, hurtling towards the target ball with astonishing speed and striking it accurately. With a crisp, pleasant sound, the target ball, as if guided by some mysterious force, followed its predetermined trajectory and fell smoothly into the pocket. "Good shot." A burst of enthusiastic applause and cheers erupted from all around, everyone applauding this spectacular shot. Amidst the cheers, Yunxi's heart remained largely unmoved. Seemingly unfazed by the praise, she remained calm and composed. She unhurriedly reassessed the table, quickly identifying her next target and the optimal angle for her shot. Then, without hesitation, she swung her club again, striking the ball. And so, one ball after another, under her masterful control, precisely nestled into the pockets. The initially enthusiastic onlookers gradually fell into stunned silence, hardly believing what they were witnessing. Finally, someone couldn't help but exclaim, "Boss, is there anything you can't do?" The question, though small, resonated sharply in the quiet atmosphere. Instantly, all eyes were fixed on Yunxi. Clearly, everyone was filled with curiosity about this question. Faced with such eager gazes and inquiries from everyone, Yunxi was slightly taken aback at first, then fell into a brief moment of contemplation. She thought about it carefully. She knew quite a lot, but there was even more she didn't. Currently, there were still many courses in the system's rich, beautiful, and successful curriculum that she hadn't learned yet. However, ever since her talent stat reached 100, she had become somewhat indifferent in this regard. She would only choose one course at a time, and whether she actually studied it depended on her mood. Therefore, her progress in the newly chosen Go course was extremely slow. After a brief moment of thought, Yunxi solemnly replied, "There's a lot I don't know. For example, I haven't learned Go yet, and there's also pottery, flower arranging, sewing. I know absolutely nothing." Everyone. They looked at each other, expressing their shock. Wait, does the boss even have to learn these things? Are these things absolutely necessary? Is it too late for them to learn from scratch now? Yunxi wasn't quite aware of everyone's surprise. After finishing her game of billiards, she said, "Have fun here. If you need anything, just ask Mr. Yen. I'll head back now. Take care, boss." "Goodbye, boss." And Yunxi found Yan Hao and said goodbye, then walked towards the club's entrance, taking out her phone to call her driver, Chengdu, but Chengdu didn't answer her call. And Yunxi frowned and dialed Chengdu's number again, but there was still no answer. Her originally beautiful face gradually turned serious with worry. Chengdu was an extremely professional and reliable person. It was almost unheard of for him not to answer the phone. Could it be something had happened? At this thought, and Yunxi's heart clenched, and she involuntarily pressed the redial button again. However, just as she was about to put her ear to the phone, a deep and magnetic voice suddenly rang out behind her. "Yunxi." Just as she was about to dial again, a familiar voice called out. Yunxi, hearing this all-too-familiar voice, and Yunxi subconsciously looked up. In that instant, her gaze met that of the person who spoke, and everything around her seemed to freeze. She knew it. How could Chengdu not answer her calls? It was this guy's doing. The man before her was tall and imposing, dressed in a well-tailored black suit with a long cashmere coat over it, accentuating his slender and muscular physique. His face was sharply defined, with deep-set features as exquisitely sculpted as a sculpture. His deep eyes held a hint of coldness, yet a fleeting, almost imperceptible tenderness flickered the moment he saw Yunxi. The man was none other than Zhou Shiyan, who had claimed to be away from Beijing on a business trip and wouldn't be back for a couple of days. He was now walking towards Yunxi step by step. His gait was steady, his posture upright as a pine tree, each step carrying an invisible aura. And Yunxi stood quietly, her gaze fixed on the approaching figure, not moving an inch, silently waiting for Zhou Shiyan to reach her. "Brother Shiyan, you're back early?" Her voice was filled with undisguised surprise and delight. Zhou Shiyan nodded slightly, a faint smile playing on his lips, and replied softly, "Yes, I came back as soon as I finished my work." His voice was deep and magnetic, like a richly resonant cello, its lingering notes gently echoing in the quiet atmosphere, softly resonating in Yunxi's ears. However, Zhou Shiyan didn't mention a word about how he had worked tirelessly day and night to get back to the capital and see her as soon as possible, dealing with mountains of work and countless sleepless nights. In his eyes, none of that mattered, because the moment he saw her, all his fatigue and hardship seemed to vanish in an instant. "Brother Shiyan, why did you come back early without telling me?" And Yunxi's tone held a hint of reproach, but her face radiated a happy smile. Zhou Shiyan gently stroked her nose. "I wanted to surprise you." His voice was deep and gentle, yet it reached Yunxi's ears clearly through the noisy entrance of the club. "Should I thank Mr. Zhou for the surprise?" However, Zhou Shiyan didn't answer this teasing question. Instead, he took Yunxi's hand and said, "Let's go home." For some reason, the simple words "home" sounded incredibly moving at that moment. For Yunxi, no matter when or where, hearing those two words always brought an indescribable warmth to her heart. And Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan exchanged a smile, everything understood without words. The couple walked hand in hand out of the Yunlin Club. The night outside was deep. All was quiet except for the rustling of leaves in the breeze. This peaceful scene contrasted sharply with the noisy chaos inside the club, as if they were two completely different worlds. Zhou Shiyan's car was parked not far away. He opened the door, let Yunxi get in first, and then went around to the driver's seat. "You drove here yourself? This guy just got back from a business trip, without even a driver. Doesn't he care about the hardship of driving?" "Yeah, I sent Chengdu back first," Zhou Shiyan explained casually. "What about Wang Lin?" Zhou Shiyan was on a business trip to handle work matters, so it was impossible for him to go without Wang Lin. Wang Lin? He'd naturally gotten rid of him too. A slight, almost imperceptible smile played on Zhou Shiyan's lips as he replied casually, "Wife, do you want Wang Lin to disturb our time together?" As he said this, and Yunxi noticed a hint of grievance in his eyes. And Yunxi, speechless, and Yunxi chose to remain silent. At this moment, the car was quiet, save for the soft sound of Zhou Shiyan expertly starting the engine. In the quiet stillness, Zhou Shiyan, steadily steering the car, casually glanced at Yunxi in the passenger seat beside him and softly asked, "Did the meeting go smoothly today?" And Yunxi nodded and replied, "Yes, everything went smoothly. The plans were all in place, and everyone discussed and refined the details." After a moment, he spoke again, his voice deep and magnetic. "Did you miss me while I was gone?" "Of course I did. I looked forward to your return every day." And Yunxi leaned back lazily in the comfortable seat, tilting her head slightly, her gaze gently falling on Zhou Shiyan beside her. Her bright eyes seemed to hold a bottomless ocean of love, overflowing with deep affection for him. At this moment, the car was driving smoothly and slowly along the street shrouded in night. The streetlights on both sides of the road stood silently, like loyal guardians. Soft sunlight streamed through the car windows, illuminating the couple perfectly. Like a delicately painted scroll with warm colors, it subtly sketched a scene brimming with tenderness. Zhou Shiyan occasionally glanced at Yunxi, his eyes filled with doting affection. Each brief glance felt like an electric current coursing through their bodies, filling the air with a sweet fragrance. "On this business trip, I discovered a beautiful place. Let's go together next time we have time," Zhou Shiyan said. And Yunxi asked curiously, "Where?" "It's a small seaside town in the Mediterranean region. The sky there is incredibly blue, the seawater is crystal clear, and there are many unique little shops. I think you'll definitely like it." Zhou Shiyan described it, his mind filled with the beautiful image of the place. And Yunxi smiled wistfully. "Okay, let's go next year, when we're less busy." The two chatted and laughed along the way, sharing snippets of their lives during this time. Soon, the car arrived at their cozy homecoming Lake Yunxi residence. This was a manor villa nestled in a tranquil and serene environment, surrounded by lush greenery and shimmering lake waters, a truly enchanting paradise. Zhou Shiyan parked the car and took the elevator with Yunxi from the underground parking lot to the first floor. As the elevator door slowly opened, Yunxi couldn't help but gasp. She was completely stunned by the sight before her. The living room floor was covered with vibrant rose petals, like a magnificent floral carpet stretching to every corner. And on the pristine white coffee table sat an exquisite cake. The cake was adorned with flickering candles, as if whispering tales of endless tenderness and sweetness. "Brother Shiyan, this is..." And Yunxi turned her head, her beautiful eyes filled with astonishment, looking at Zhou Shiyan beside her in disbelief. Zhou Shiyan gently hugged her from behind. "Welcome home, my darling. Even though I'm back early, I still wanted to give you a special surprise." "Why is there a cake? After so long apart, isn't it worth celebrating?" Hearing this, Yunxi could no longer suppress her emotions. She slowly turned around to face Zhou Shiyan. At this moment, her beautiful eyes were slightly moist, like two sparkling gems. "You're right. Today is indeed a memorable day." And Yunxi's voice trembled slightly. She opened her arms and hugged Zhou Shiyan tightly. Zhou Shiyan felt Yunxi's deep affection and hugged her back tightly. The two of them quietly embraced, immersed in this incredibly warm atmosphere, enjoying the deep love they shared. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. Everything around them became unimportant. Only the sincere and profound love between them remained eternal. After a long while, Yunxi finally loosened her grip slightly, tilting her head to gaze at Zhou Shiyan's handsome face. Zhou Shiyan lowered his head, looking back at her with a gaze full of doting affection. Their eyes met, and 1,000 words were unspoken. Zhou Shiyan released Yunxi, pulled her to the sofa, and cut a piece of cake for her. Yunxi happily accepted the tempting aroma of the cake and took a small bite. Instantly, the rich, creamy chocolate flavor filled her mouth. The sweet and delicious taste made her involuntarily squint her eyes, a radiant, satisfied smile blooming on her face. "It's delicious. Where did you order the cake?" Yunxi asked. "I specially found a private bakery. I know you like chocolate, so I had them make it especially for you," Zhou Shiyan said. Hearing this, a warm feeling welled up in Yunxi's heart, and her eyes softened even more. The two continued chatting while eating the cake. Before they knew it, it was quite late, but neither of them wanted to leave, wanting to savor their time together a little longer. As the night deepened, moonlight streamed into the room, illuminating the sweet couple. After a period of busy work, and Yunxi finally completed all her tasks. The long-awaited Dongling Airlines annual meeting and 20th anniversary celebration arrived as scheduled. Zhou Shiyan had arranged his time in advance to accompany Yunxi to the event. As the company's second-largest shareholder, and given Yunxi's and Zhou Shiyan's respective statuses, their appearance immediately attracted everyone's attention. Yunxi was radiant and captivating today. She wore a royal blue velvet-fitted evening gown. The velvet's smooth and delicate texture shimmered like stars twinkling in the night sky. The gown featured long, thick sleeves, which not only showcased Yunxi's elegant temperament but also provided warmth, keeping her comfortable on a cold night. The square neckline was a major highlight, perfectly accentuating Yunxi's long, fair neck, making her resemble a noble swan, radiating captivating charm. The skirt was meticulously adorned with tiny diamond embellishments like scattered stars. As Yunxi moved, her skirt swayed gracefully, the diamonds sparkling dazzlingly like a flowing galaxy, enveloping her in a dreamlike atmosphere. Standing beside her, Zhou Shiyan was equally elegant and handsome. He wore a well-tailored, sharply defined black suit, a white shirt underneath, and a sophisticated tie. He exuded confidence and charisma, his deep, pool-like eyes revealing a calm and self-assured demeanor. At this moment, he gently took Yunxi's hand, and the two exchanged a smile, their eyes filled with sweetness and unspoken understanding. Chairman Zhong, congratulations on another glorious year for Dongling Airlines. Zhou Mingxiu, also dressed in a suit and tie, laughed heartily and said, "Congratulations to you too. I must also thank Chairman and for her generous donation. Otherwise, we wouldn't have had enough funds and the courage to expand." "You're too kind, Mr. Zhong. This is a win-win situation. It's my honor to have a partner like you." Although the 20% stake in Dongling Airlines was given to her by the system, and on the surface, she didn't spend any money herself. According to the system's settings, it was most likely purchased at a high price using previously accumulated funds. Zhou Mingxiu's words perfectly confirmed Yunxi's many previous suspicions about the system. "Ha, I admire Chairman and straightforward personality." Hearing Yunxi's words, Zhou Mingxiu's smile became even brighter. Immediately afterward, he warmly invited, "Chairman Zhou, Chairman N, please come in." With that, Zhou Mingxiu dared not delay in the slightest and quickly led the two towards the luxurious banquet hall where the celebration was being held. At this moment, the many guests at the banquet noticed that Zhou Mingxiu was personally greeting the guests, and they couldn't help but wonder who this person was who deserved such high-level treatment. Was it a high-ranking leader in attendance, or a super-rich client who had come to show their support? Just as everyone was puzzled, when their gaze finally fell on Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi, and they successfully recognized their true identities, their eyes instantly revealed understanding. Many individuals who didn't recognize the two raised questions, and those in the know immediately provided introductions. After hearing the introductions, they exclaimed in amazement. Amidst the lively atmosphere and the packed house, Yunxi's gaze was suddenly drawn to a familiar figure. Upon closer inspection, she recognized him as Yi Moyang, the renowned successor of the Yi Group. "President N, it's been a long time," Yi Moyang greeted Yunxi with a smile. "President Yi? I never expected to see you here." Yunxi replied with equal delight. Yi Moyang explained with a smile, "President N, you may not know this, but we've had a long-standing partnership with Dongling Airlines. The Yi family, as a key partner of Dongling Airlines, naturally knew from the beginning that Yunxi was the second-largest shareholder. It wasn't until later, after the Yi family and Yunxi collaborated on the significant Dongli Garden project, that their interactions gradually increased and they slowly began to get to know each other. Later, thanks to Yunxi's Yunnan Research Institute, the two sides collaborated again. At this moment, Yi Moyang gazed at the graceful and elegant woman before him, a wave of emotion washing over him. Who could have imagined that Yunxi back then would grow into what she is today in just a few years? Even though she was the daughter of Yunzhou's richest man, or the heir to the mysterious Zhang family, Yi Moyang had never anticipated Yunxi's rapid growth. What surprised him even more was that her achievements in business were one thing, but Yunxi's accomplishments went far beyond that. She balanced her studies with business development, even participating in shooting competitions to bring glory to her country. She managed both her studies and career with remarkable ease, managing to do both without neglecting either. What astonished the world even more was the continuous stream of research achievements from her private research institute. Even a 1-nanometer lithography machine had been developed. According to reliable sources, the Yunnan Research Institute has numerous technological collaborations with the military. Considering the Zhou family's relationship with the military, Yi Moyang felt this news was likely true, and Yunxi was unaware of Yi Moyang's thoughts and his assessment of her. At this moment, seeing Yi Moyang, she suddenly remembered something. So, Yunxi smiled and said, "President Yi, I heard that the Yi Group has a company specializing in fireproof and heat-insulating materials." "Yes, President, and what do you mean?" "The Yunnan Research Institute has some research achievements in this area and is looking for partners. I wonder what President Yi's opinion is?" Yi Moyang's eyes lit up upon hearing this, and he quickly agreed. "President N, you flatter me. Everyone is lining up to work with the Yunnan Research Institute's research achievements. How could the Yi Group refuse?" "That's good. I'll have General Manager Tang from Yun Chuang Technology contact you later to discuss the details." And Yunxi approached Yi Moyang directly, for two reasons. Firstly, they were already long-time business partners. Their previous collaborations, including the Dongli Garden project and their last technical cooperation, had gone smoothly. Secondly, and more importantly, there was another crucial reason. Tang Guoming's thorough investigation revealed that, across the entire domestic market, the company with the strongest capabilities in the production and research of fire-resistant and heat-insulating materials, and the one most perfectly suited to the requirements of this technical collaboration, was none other than the company under the Yi Group. And Yi Moyang was the heir to the Yi Group. With her and Yi Moyang jointly leading the effort, the collaboration would proceed much faster. Yi Moyang happily said, "President N, rest assured, this isn't our first collaboration. The Yi Group will certainly demonstrate its sincerity. Then, let's have a pleasant collaboration." A pleasant collaboration. The two simultaneously extended their right hands and shook hands firmly, thus reaching a preliminary agreement on cooperation. The Yunnan Research Institute was indeed enjoying unparalleled success, with countless companies vying to cooperate with it. However, Tang Guoming was always very selective in choosing partners. Without an absolute advantage in this field, one would likely be eliminated in the first round, never even reaching Yunxi's level. After Yi Moyang left, guests arrived in droves to exchange pleasantries and build relationships. Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan responded politely with smiles. They reminisced with old friends and chatted with new partners, exuding confidence and composure in every gesture. The annual meeting and celebration officially commenced after a spectacular opening performance. On stage, the lights shone brightly, and dancers in magnificent costumes gracefully depicted Dongling Airlines' journey from its inception to its present state. Looking at the stage, Yunxi was filled with emotion. She softly said to Zhou Shiyan, "I never imagined Dongling Airlines would expand so much in just a few years." Zhou Shiyan replied, "Zhong Mingxiu is a decisive person. With your financial support, he has basically no worries, and his series of bold actions are now yielding results." And Yunxi nodded slightly, indicating her agreement with Zhou Shiyan's point of view, but didn't say anything more. In recent years, at Zhou Mingxi's behest, Yunxi had successively acquired shares from several minority shareholders. Now, her shareholding in Dongling Airlines has reached over 40%. In other words, Dongling Airlines is now essentially in the hands of Zhou Mingxiu and Yunxi. Furthermore, Yunxi doesn't interfere much with Zhou Mingxiu's management, so Zhou Mingxiu has absolute control and say in Dongling Airlines. This is also one of the important reasons why many of Zhou Mingxiu's measures can be implemented quickly within the company. In short, centralized power has its advantages. Dongling Airlines' rapid development today is a direct result of its expansion after centralization of power. While Dongling previously held the top position among private airlines in Taiwan, it was still significantly different from the dongling of today. Just then, the opening performance on stage finally ended. Immediately afterwards, a male and a female host gracefully returned to the stage. Both greeted the audience with smiles. After a brief and friendly opening, the host began introducing Dongling Airlines. Next, the lights dimmed, and a meticulously produced corporate promotional video for Dongling Airlines began playing on the large screen. The video showed silver-gray airplanes slicing through the sky, soaring among the blue sky and white clouds. In the spacious and bright waiting hall, passengers moved about in a hurry but remained orderly. The well-trained crew members won unanimous praise from passengers for their professional and attentive service. This vivid promotional video comprehensively showcased Dongling Airlines' strong capabilities and positive brand image. After the video finished playing, the lights came back on, and the host enthusiastically invited the company's chairman, Mr. Zhong Mingxiu, to the stage to deliver a speech. Mr. Zhong Mingxiu calmly straightened his tie, then strode confidently to the center of the stage. After taking his seat, he first surveyed the packed audience, then took a deep breath and began a passionate and inspiring speech. He reviewed the company's 20-year history and expressed his sincere gratitude to all shareholders and employees. At this special moment, we want to thank everyone who has contributed to Dongling Airlines, especially our second-largest shareholder, MS and Yunxi. She has not only provided strong financial support to the company, but also offered valuable advice on strategic decision-making and development direction. As Zhong Mingxi spoke, all eyes turned to Yunxi, who was sitting in the front row. At this moment, Yunxi, who had been sitting attentively listening, slowly stood up, smiled, and bowed slightly to the audience in all directions to express her gratitude. In today's increasingly competitive market, Dongling Airlines will continue to strive to improve our service levels, always aiming to become a larger, stronger, and more refined enterprise. We will focus on service upgrades and brand building to provide all customers with even better service and achieve remarkable success in the aviation service industry. Looking back, the thorns and obstacles along the way have driven us to persevere, overcome difficulties, and scale new heights, creating unparalleled achievements. Looking to the future, our unwavering dreams and pursuits will help us never forget our original aspirations as we move forward, working hand in hand to win a brighter future. Upon hearing this, Yunxi couldn't help but smile, then lowered her voice slightly and said to Zhou Shiyan beside her, "This draft is most likely not written by Chairman Zhong himself. It sounds too formal and official. It's not Zhong Mingxiu's style at all." At this moment, Zhou Shiyan, sitting beside him, nodded knowingly and explained softly, "For important occasions like this, the speeches are usually prepared by the department responsible for organizing the event." While the two were whispering, Zhong Mingxiu on the stage continued his passionate speech. With focused and confident expression, he declared eloquently, "We firmly believe. In this booming market, Dongling Airlines is willing to join hands with everyone present to create a more brilliant and beautiful tomorrow for us all. Finally, on behalf of Dongling Airlines, thank you all." As soon as he finished speaking, thunderous applause erupted in the room. Yunxi looked around, seeing everyone clapping excitedly, and thought to herself, "This audience is quite cooperative." For this celebration, Zhong Mingxiu, following Yunxi's example, boldly adopted the currently popular online live streaming as a new way to promote the event. As Yunxi stood up, the live stream camera immediately focused on her. Soon, netizens discovered her presence. Then, word spread like wildfire, and a massive influx of fans rushed into the live stream. The live stream administrators' hearts jumped into their throats. They instructed their staff to keep a close eye on the live stream, making sure nothing went wrong. So, by the time Yunxi was invited to speak on stage, the number of viewers in the live stream had exceeded 100 million. A stranger. "Wow, I heard Yunxi is back. I can't believe it's true. Xiao Zhou, what event is this? Why is Yunxi participating?" Confused where the lights dim. "You guys don't know? Sister 11 is the second largest shareholder of Dongling Airlines. Smug, tears against the current. It's not you. What are you so smug about? Where the lights dim. My idol is successful, so what if I'm smug and proud? At tears against the current wild wolf in the wild. Exactly, I'm proud too. The north wind blows. Pride +1 science guru. Me too +1 if it's true, if it's false. Pride +1. Working is worse than slacking off. Pride +10,086 naive. Isn't this written on an Yunxi's profile page? You guys didn't know? Image Gusamuli. I can only blame my sister 11 for introducing so many titles and achievements that I didn't even notice. Awkward dream under the stars. Exactly. She remembered so many. Past events flow. It's not too late to know now. Another day of giving my sister 11 a thumbs up. Smoking, sweet rice balls. What else don't I know? Tell me. Uprooted willow. Sister 11 loves to surprise people as always. Grinning pomelo tea. I'm used to it anyway, always ready to receive such surprises. Such celebrations are nothing more than speeches, performances, signing ceremonies, year-end bonus distribution, raffles to liven up the atmosphere, etc. And Yunxi's participation is only in the speech and the launch ceremony. Afterwards, she can just sit down and eat, drink, and watch the shows. Dongling Airlines really went all out this time, even inviting celebrities to perform. The artists they hired were from Shengtian Entertainment, and Yunxi was the one who made the connection. As soon as the plan to hire celebrities for a performance was conceived, Zhou Mingxiu immediately thought of Yunxi. She was the boss of Shengtian Entertainment. Resolving this would be a piece of cake for her. Why not use her resources and connections instead of struggling to find suitable performers elsewhere? And Yunxi readily agreed to Zhou Mingxiu's request. After all, it wasn't like they weren't going to pay her. Why let the profits go to outsiders? It's much better to let their own stars earn the money. As soon as she agreed, and Yunxi unhesitatingly entrusted the matter to Li Haowen. Li Haowen was an experienced and discerning individual. He was naturally able to accurately select and recommend the most suitable artists based on Dongling's specific needs and budget. Thus, thanks to the decisive decisions and effective command of both bosses, the current win-win situation of cooperation was successfully achieved. As night fell and the city lights began to twinkle, a lavish and extravagant banquet commenced. On the long dining table, a dazzling array of exquisitely prepared delicacies were laid out, tempting every mouth-watering. At this moment, Zhou Shiyan sat beside Yunxi, elegantly and meticulously cutting her steak with a knife, occasionally offering her a glass of enticing, fragrant red wine. This warm and romantic scene drew the attention of everyone present. Looking at the loving and inseparable couple, their eyes were filled with envy. After attending Dongling Airlines' annual meeting, 2024 was drawing to a close. This year's New Year's gift package, besides the usual cash, various character summon cards, and cashback cards, also included a luxury cruise ship as a reward from the system. Named the Queen of the Seas, this cruise ship is currently the world's largest existing cruise ship. Propelled by liquefied natural gas, it has a gross tonnage of 250,000 tons, a length of approximately 365 meters, and 20 decks. Its interior is fully equipped and boasts everything imaginable, making it a true luxury palace floating on the sea. The entire cruise ship resembles a dream castle floating on the ocean, with a maximum passenger capacity of 9,950. Of these, 7,600 are passengers, while the remaining 2,350 are cruise ship staff dedicated to ensuring every guest enjoys an unparalleled experience. The luxury of the Queen of the Seas is simply breathtaking. The ship features 14 uniquely styled bars and clubs, each with its own distinct atmosphere, making it a place you'll want to linger. The 6 exquisitely decorated luxury restaurants are even more stunning, their shimmering lights creating the feeling of a royal banquet. Furthermore, there are 5 incredibly spacious swimming pools. Even more surprising is the ship's theater, capable of hosting spectacular shows, from song and dance performances to theatrical productions. There's also a casino that brings together various betting options, offering thrills and challenges that attract countless adventurers. Of course, there's also a magnificent ballroom perfect for grand banquets, where guests can dance and enjoy themselves to the music. In addition, the Queen of the Seas boasts over 1,800 luxurious double cabins and single suites, all meticulously crafted. Each room features a private gym and a charming balcony, allowing guests to maintain their health and vitality while leisurely enjoying the beautiful sea views. Moreover, all rooms are staffed with professional and attentive high-class service personnel to cater to every guest's needs. If tourists enjoy gazing at the stars on the vast ocean and love watching the sky, admiring the moon, and observing the stars, then the Queen of the Seas will definitely not disappoint them, because it also has a professional planetarium specially prepared for these enthusiasts. Imagine, on a quiet night, with a gentle sea breeze, exploring the mysteries of the universe through a telescope. What a wonderful experience that would be. And Yunxi, after reviewing the cruise ship information, wow, the system already gave her a yacht, and now it's a cruise ship? But with such a huge cruise ship, it seems she won't have many opportunities to use it. If that's the case, should she plan a cruise ship party or something? After receiving a call from the cruise ship's manager, Ryan, and Yunxi learned that the cruise ship was actually operational. Since its official commissioning last year, the Queen of the Seas has been operating, offering 3 itineraries annually. Of course, such a luxurious and massive passenger ship naturally comes with incredibly high ticket prices. According to Ryan, the lowest price is $3,500, and the most expensive is over $80,000. Wow, that's really expensive. However, even at such exorbitant prices, tickets for each cruise sold out incredibly quickly, often selling out in a very short time. This demonstrates just how attractive this world's largest cruise ship is to tourists. Fortunately, the system rewarded her with a cruise ship along with its own staff. Otherwise, she would have had a hard time setting up a team of over 2,000 people. Given the system's usual practices, this cruise ship was likely reserved by the system before delivery. It's only now that it's in her hands because the system felt the time was right. Many of her previous properties also seem to have been purchased in advance by the system and then transferred to Yunxi as rewards at opportune moments. Over the years, Yunxi believed she had essentially figured out the system's methods. The wealth created and accumulated by the system's previous owners must have been staggering. With these assets in hand, it wouldn't be too difficult for the system to acquire them. After informing Chu Zi that she had acquired another asset to manage, Yunxi sent him information about the Queen of the Ocean and Ryan's contact details, then paid no further attention. Now, she's considering attending the Weibo night event. As the boss of Xingtian Entertainment, this wasn't the first time Yunxi had received an invitation to Weibo night. Previously, she neither had the time nor the interest to attend, always sending Li Haowen as her representative. However, things are different now. This time, the situation has changed. She received 2 different invitations. One was still an invitation to attend as the boss of Xingtian Entertainment. Even though she had never attended in person, she hadn't missed this invitation every year. The other was an invitation to attend as a shooting athlete. She was on this year's Weibo annual model athlete list. As the boss of Xingtian Entertainment, she could easily choose not to attend as before, but as a shooting athlete, the situation became more complicated. Therefore, she specifically called Zhang Lei to discuss this matter. After internal discussion and deliberation, the team unanimously agreed that Yunxi should participate in the event. The reason was simple. Doing so would greatly promote the sport's popularity and influence in China. Yunxi specifically asked someone to inquire with the organizers. She wasn't the only athlete invited. Weibo offers numerous awards for athletes, both individual and team. Given the situation, participation in this event was mandatory. She couldn't refuse, nor could she refuse. Since she couldn't refuse, there was no need to hesitate or be indecisive. After all, once something is a fait accompli, excessive worry only adds to the trouble. Speaking of this Weibo night, it's an annual awards ceremony hosted by Sina, recognizing and selecting the most popular figures and events of the year. This year's Weibo Night event seemed particularly grand. On January 8th, the online annual awards winners for Weibo Night were announced. On January 10th, the performance program was released. On January 11th, Weibo Night officially began. This year's Weibo Night was held in Beijing. For Yunxi, this was undoubtedly good news, because this meant she could avoid the hassle of long-distance travel and be in better condition to participate in the event. "Brother Shiryan, are you really not coming with me?" Just before leaving, Yunxi stopped, turned around, and looked at Zhou Shiryan with a mixture of expectation and doubt, confirming his question again. Zhou Shiryan frowned slightly and replied softly, "Well, I've been getting a lot of media attention lately, so I think I'll skip the Weibo Night event." Hearing this, Yunxi fell silent for a moment, wondering to herself, would skipping this event even make a difference? After all, because of her, Zhou Shiryan had already become the focus of public attention, frequently appearing in the public eye. Seemingly sensing Yunxi's thoughts from her expression, Zhou Shiryan explained, "Although this won't be very effective, it's important to show my stance to the higher-ups." Yunxi nodded thoughtfully, indicating she understood Zhou Shiryan's concerns. Then, she smiled and said to Zhou Shiryan, "All right, in that case, I'll be going." Just then, Zhou Shiryan suddenly reached out and placed his right hand on Yunxi's neck, pulling her into his arms. Immediately afterwards, he leaned down, his lips close to Yunxi's luscious red lips, and gently kissed her. After a while, Zhou Shiryan reluctantly released her, looking at her and saying, "Go on, I'll wait for you at home." "Oops, you kissed my lipstick off," Yunxi said, taking a delicate makeup mirror from her small bag and carefully examining her makeup. Sure enough, the lipstick color wasn't as vibrant as before. Yunxi subconsciously glanced at Zhou Shiryan beside her and saw that his lips were indeed stained with tiny red marks. Just then, a voice suddenly rang out. "Missin, let me touch up your lipstick." The sudden words made Yunxi realize that the styling team was still at home. Wouldn't everyone have seen what just happened? Yunxi closed her eyes, wishing time could turn back to before this happened. But obviously, it was impossible. Yunxi glared at the smug man in front of her, turned around and sat down, letting the makeup artist touch up her makeup. After a short while, the makeup artist said, "It's done, Missin," Yunxi nodded slightly and replied, "Thank you for your hard work." "Not at all, it's my job. Missin, you can keep this lipstick and setting powder with you for touch-ups." Yunxi took the items and put them in her bag, saying, "Thank you." She glanced at her wrist. It was truly time to leave. Yunxi stood up gracefully, her figure elegant and captivating. Just then, Zhou Shiryan walked towards her with steady steps, carrying a luxurious fur shawl. The shawl was fluffy, looking exceptionally soft and incredibly warm. Zhou Shiryan carefully draped the shawl over Yunxi's shoulders and gently adjusted it. He frowned slightly, a hint of concern in his eyes, and softly instructed, "It's cold today. Don't take off the shawl." "I'm wearing a thick one this time. I won't be cold. Besides, this event will be indoors except when we get out of the car. With heating, it won't be cold." Zhou Shiryan felt slightly relieved after hearing this, but still insisted, "Then take off your shawl after you walk the red carpet and sit down. The red carpet is usually at the entrance, so it must be cold there." "I know, Shiryan-ji, you're being a bit long-winded today." However, she had barely finished speaking when she felt a pair of strong arms tightly encircle her slender waist. "You little ingrate, who was I doing that for? And you call me long-winded, huh?" Zhou Shiryan lowered his head, making a move to kiss Yunxi's rosy cheek. Seeing the man lower his head and try to kiss her again, Yunxi quickly reached out and covered his mouth. Seeing this, Yunxi quickly covered Zhou Shiryan's mouth with her hand, saying, "No, another kiss and I'll have to redo my makeup." Zhou Shiryan sighed helplessly, hugged her, and said, "I'll let you off the hook for now, wait until we get back." Yunxi rolled her eyes at him, grabbed her bag without a word, turned around, and left without looking back. Chengdu was already waiting for her at the entrance. In the chilly January, the Weibo Night event was bustling with activity, as vibrant as midsummer. A long red carpet, like a giant red dragon, stretched from the entrance all the way to the huge autograph wall in the distance. Both sides of the red carpet were already packed with enthusiastic fans and numerous media reporters carrying cameras and microphones. Fans held all sorts of meticulously crafted support signs, constantly shouting the names of their idols. The sounds rose in waves, one after another, seemingly piercing the heavens. On the stage, colorful lights shone brightly, dazzling the eyes. Below the stage, many guests were already seated. Tonight, a large portion of the entertainment industry had gathered here. They were all dressed in their finest attire, their faces adorned with exquisite makupa true visual feast. One luxury car after another drove to the entrance, and one after another, elegantly dressed and impeccably made-up stars stepped onto the red carpet. Witnessed by fans and photographed by the media, they presented their best selves. One car drove away, and then a royal blue Rolls-Royce, like a noble blue peacock, slowly drove towards the entrance. Its unique body color shone even more dazzlingly under the lights, instantly attracting the attention of everyone present. Someone in the crowd exclaimed, "That's a Rolls-Royce? It's so beautiful." It looks like a phantom, but it's not quite the same as a regular phantom. This looks like a Rolls-Royce Phantom Ambilight Edition, limited to 25 units worldwide. The cheapest one costs nearly 14 million. I can't believe I'm seeing one here today. My God, this car is absolutely dazzling. It truly lives up to its name, Ambilight. Who's inside? This is the first time I've ever seen a car like this. People began to speculate with curiosity. Amidst the anticipation of the crowd, the car, dazzling under the lights, came to a smooth stop at the end of the red carpet. And Yunxi looked through the car window and saw the sea of fans on both sides of the red carpet. Holding up various support signs and chanting their idols' names, their voices were deafening. At the same time, countless flashes of light went off one after another, like twinkling stars in the night sky, instantly illuminating the entire night as if it were daytime. Just as everyone's attention was focused, the driver's side door was gently pushed open, and a tall, handsome man in a suit with a rugged air stepped out. Ignoring the screams and flashes around him, he went around to the back seat and opened the door. "Miss, we've arrived." He bent down slightly, carefully extending one hand to hold onto the door frame and placing the other on the roof in a protective gesture to prevent the person getting out of the car from bumping their head. Everyone's gaze was drawn to this, as a slender, white foot in a crystal-high heel stepped out of the car. The exquisite shoe uppers shimmered with a captivating light, dazzling as if inlaid with countless stars. Then, a snow-white skirt swayed gently as she emerged, like a fairy descending to earth. As Yunxi stepped out of the car, nearby media and fans recognized her. Reporters frantically snapped photos, capturing this spectacular moment. Numerous enthusiastic fans were also overwhelmed with excitement, waving their support signs and shouting at the top of their lungs, "Ah, and Yunxi! Yunxi, we love you! Sister 11, I'm your fan! And Yunxi, look over here!" Cheers and screams echoed throughout the venue, creating an incredibly vibrant atmosphere. The moment Yunxi stepped onto the red carpet, all eyes were drawn to her as if by a magnet. Her steps were elegant and confident, each one perfectly measured, like a top model walking a runway. As she moved, her skirt billowed in the wind, adding to her ethereal and graceful beauty. A barrage of flashbulbs rained down, and the screams of fans were deafening. Yunxi, however, maintained a calm and composed smile, gracefully handling the gazes from all directions. Her smile was like the warm spring sun, warm and captivating. Yunxi would occasionally tilt her head slightly, nodding warmly to a particular group of fans. At other times, she would stop, striking a pose for the media to capture. At this moment, time seemed to stand still for her, and the whole world seemed to consist only of her. And Yunxi! And Yunxi! The fans chanted her name with passionate fervor. In this sea of excitement, Yunxi was the brightest star, captivating and enthralling everyone. On this cold winter night, she shone like a blazing flame, drawing all eyes to her. On this star-studded night, this rising star of the sports world unexpectedly became the focus of attention, even more so than celebrities in the entertainment industry. After finally walking the red carpet and signing her name, Yunxi was guided by staff to her seat. Because Yunxi was attending as an athlete, the organizers arranged for her to sit with the other athletes. To Yunxi's surprise, her seat was in the first row. Yunxi didn't think much of it. They would sit wherever the organizers arranged. When Yunxi arrived, several athletes from other sports were already seated. These were all old acquaintances. From the Olympics to various subsequent exchange activities, Yunxi had had considerable contact with them, and they were quite familiar with each other. After quickly taking her seat, Yunxi warmly greeted her athlete friends beside her. Everyone smiled and responded, creating a harmonious and friendly atmosphere. After the greetings, the group began chatting casually, covering everything from recent training to amusing anecdotes in their lives. As time passed, more guests entered the venue, and the initially quiet atmosphere gradually became noisy and bustling. Before long, people started coming over to greet Yunxi. Among these people were people from the entertainment industry, celebrities, directors, screenwriters, and entertainment company personnel. There were also executives from the Weibo platform. A few big names in the investment world also came to say hello to Yunxi. Yunxi had anticipated this scene. Therefore, she carried a stack of her assistant's business cards in her bag. If anyone wanted to seek cooperation, she would exchange a few words and leave a card. This way, it wouldn't be too impolite, nor would it reveal her personal contact information. The flow of people around Yunxi continued until the event was about to begin. Fortunately, Li Haowen noticed the situation with his boss and came to her rescue, blocking many of the entertainment industry figures. Seeing that it was almost time, he said goodbye. "Boss, I'll head over now." As the president of Xingtian Entertainment, Li Haowen's seat was with the entertainment industry bigwigs. Great! This Weibo night ceremony included several segments such as red carpet interaction, gift exchange, guest seating, and a secondary venue for the event. Awards were presented for the most influential event of the year, most influential cultural figure of the year, most influential sports figure of the year, most popular actor of the year, and most popular musician of the year. The Weibo Night Awards ceremony officially began, with awards being presented one by one. When the host announced that Yunxi was the winner of the Model Athlete of the Year award, the entire audience erupted in enthusiastic applause. Yunxi stood up, gracefully walked onto the stage, and accepted the trophy. "Thank you all for your recognition. Standing here to receive this honor fills me with excitement and gratitude. For every athlete, the glory on the podium is fleeting. The monotonous and repetitive training day after day is our daily routine. Throughout this long training process, what sustained me was my love for shooting, the support of my team, and, most importantly, the expectations of the nation and everyone. This honor doesn't just belong to me personally, but to everyone who supported me, to everyone who strives for their dreams. In the future, I will continue to work hard and repay everyone with even better results. Thank you." Yunxi delivered a brief, but sincere acceptance speech on stage. Her voice was firm and powerful, carrying throughout the venue through the microphone and winning enthusiastic applause. After the award ceremony, it was time for the banquet. This time, Li Haowen sat directly next to her, helping Yunxi deal with some business and entertainment guests. This table effectively became a hub for resource integration. Yunxi also met many familiar faces from the entertainment industry. For example, director Li Jihong and stars such as He Chun, Wang Yuxi, Su Lijin, and Zheng Ziyuan. It's worth mentioning that He Chun officially became an artist under Xingtian Entertainment after filming the ups and downs of mountains and seas. With his exceptional abilities and talent, coupled with the powerful resources of Xingtian Entertainment, he thrived in the fiercely competitive entertainment industry, achieving meteoric success. In just 3 years, he had risen to become an undisputed top-tier star. Moreover, he possessed the rare combination of idol-like good looks and superb acting skills, becoming the perfect male god in the eyes of countless viewers. Now nearing 40, he has shed his former naivete through the trials of time. In his place lies a composed and charming mature man's aura, a unique charm that captivates countless fans. After dealing with a group of people trying to curry favor with her, and Yunxi, holding a glass of champagne, strolled around the venue. Suddenly, she heard a familiar laugh. She turned around and saw a man surrounded by a group of people, chatting and laughing, exuding unparalleled confidence and charm in every gesture. She recognized him. It was Gui Chen. Not only did they recognize each other, but they were quite familiar with each other. Gui Chen was ranked first on the system's initial list of potential film and television artists. After Li Haowen recruited him to Shengtian Entertainment, Gui Chen lived up to expectations, rising rapidly from an unknown newcomer to a sought-after A-list film and television star. Now, he was attempting to transition from an idol to a more serious actor. At this Weibo night, Gui Chen shone brightly, successfully winning the most popular male film and television artist award. And Yunxi hesitated for a moment, then walked towards Gui Chen. "Congratulations on winning another award, Mr. Gu," she said with a smile. Hearing the familiar voice, Gui Chen turned around, his gaze instantly falling on Yunxi, a hint of undisguised joy flashing in his eyes. "President En, thank you and President Li for your support and guidance." And Yunxi raised her champagne glass and gently clinked it against the glass in front of Gui Chen, then said slowly, "Gold will always shine. Sheng Tian is just someone with eyes that are good at discovering gold." Gui Chen smiled modestly and quickly said, "President En, you flatter me. To receive such high regard from the company, I can only repay everyone's kindness with even better works." Although Yunxi said this, Gui Chen knew perfectly well the ins and outs of his success. He understood the role Shengtian Entertainment had played in it. It could be said that without Shengtian Entertainment, Gui Chen wouldn't be where he is today. Because he was so clear about all this, he refused without hesitation whenever someone suggested he leave Shengtian Entertainment and set up his own studio. On the one hand, he couldn't be an ingrate who abandoned his old employer to go solo after gaining fame and status, especially given how well Shengtian Entertainment had treated him in every way. He would despise himself for it. On the other hand, Gui Chen was very clear that Shengtian Entertainment's formidable strength and extensive resources far surpassed anything his nascent and small studio could ever hope to match. Undoubtedly, Gui Chen was a shrewd man. He could accurately discern which choices truly aligned with his long-term interests. Therefore, as the contract between the two parties was about to expire, Gui Chen resolutely decided to renew his cooperation with Shengtian Entertainment. The two chatted idly, and time passed by unnoticed. Gradually, Yunxi discovered that Gui Chen was indeed a very intelligent person. Talking with him felt like basking in the warm spring sun, incredibly comfortable and relaxing. Whether discussing work challenges or everyday trifles, Yunxi always gleaned unique insights and flashes of wisdom from his words. Even more remarkably, when their views and opinions touched upon various issues, she was astonished to find herself remarkably aligned with Gui Chen's. This unspoken understanding instantly bridged the gap between them. As the conversation deepened, Yunxi's initial perception of Gui Chen as merely a subordinate began to subtly shift. At this moment, he was no longer simply an employee following orders and completing tasks, but was gradually moving towards the role of a friend. Perhaps, in the days to come, many more exciting and interesting stories awaited them. Yunxi was so engrossed in the pleasant conversation that she didn't notice many people taking photos of their interaction. By the time the Weibo night event ended, the photo had already spread online. Some media outlets, seeking to grab attention, even used suggestive headlines such as Shengtian Entertainment boss and Gui Chen in intimate conversation, relationship remains a mystery. Zhou Shiyan, having finished a busy day at work, habitually checked his phone for news as soon as he got home. Unexpectedly, this photo caught his eye. Seeing Yunxi and Gui Chen chatting happily in the photo, he narrowed his eyes, his expression displeased. At that moment, he found the smiles on Gui Chen and Yunxi's faces in the photo somewhat irritating. "Why is Gui Chen so close to Yunxi?" Zhou Shiyan muttered to himself, his brows furrowing slightly. He had always trusted in Yunxi implicitly, but seeing this photo still stirred a pang of jealousy within him. Time ticked by. Zhou Shiyan sat on the living room sofa, his eyes fixed on the door, waiting for Yunxi to return. With each passing minute, his jealousy flared. Finally, familiar footsteps sounded outside the door. And Yunxi was back. "Brother Shiyan, I'm home." And Yunxi pushed open the door, her face still showing the excitement and exhaustion from the dinner party. But when she saw Zhou Shiyan sitting on the sofa, his face serious, her heart skipped a beat. "What's wrong, Brother Shiyan?" And Yunxi asked cautiously, slowly approaching him. Zhou Shiyan didn't speak, but simply handed her his phone. The image in the photo was clearly visible. Upon seeing the photo, and Yunxi immediately understood everything. She couldn't help but laugh. "Are you jealous? That's an artist under Xingtian Entertainment. I was just talking about work with him." Zhou Shiyan turned his head away, feigning anger, and said, "Do you need to laugh so happily when talking about work?" His voice carried a hint of barely perceptible grievance. And Yunxi sat down next to him, reached out and hugged his arm, and said coquettishly, "Oh, Shiyan-ji, don't overthink it. You're the only one in my heart. Don't you believe me?" Looking at her adorable appearance, Zhou Shiyan's anger had subsided considerably, but he still couldn't resist wanting to punish her a little. He wrapped his arms around Yunxi's waist, pulling her into his embrace, and whispered, "No, you haven't paid much attention to me today. I want you to pay more attention to me." And Yunxi, seeing his pleading, felt both amused and annoyed, and could only nod repeatedly. Okay, I'll only pay attention to you from now on, all right?" But Zhou Shiyan was still not satisfied. He lowered his head slightly, gently nuzzling Yunxi's cheek with the tip of his nose, and whispered, "That's not enough." Then, his lips covered Yunxi's, a kiss that was both domineering and overflowing with love. And Yunxi was initially surprised, but quickly became immersed in the kiss. She closed her eyes and wrapped her arms around Zhou Shiyan's neck. After a long while, Zhou Shiyan finally released her. Looking at her slightly flushed cheeks, his eyes were full of doting affection. He didn't say anything, but simply picked Yunxi up in a princess carry and headed towards the bedroom. "Shiyan, what are you doing?" And Yunxi asked softly, gripping Zhou Shiyan's shoulders tightly with both hands. Zhou Shiyan's lips curled into a charming smile. "I'm taking you back to your room. I'll have a good talk with you. You're not allowed to get so close to other men in the future." "I haven't showered yet." "Don't shower yet." "No, I want to shower first." "You still have the mind to think about other things, huh?" And Yunxi inexplicably sensed a hint of danger. Before she could react, Zhou Shiyan tossed her onto the soft bed. Then, the man's body covered hers. Finally, and Yunxi, her face flushed, was carried into the bathroom by Zhou Shiyan to shower. On January 25th, and Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan were already in Yunzhou. At this moment, and Yunxi sat in the passenger seat, her gaze fixed on the scenery rushing past the window. Zhou Shiyan gripped the steering wheel intently, his profile sculpted handsomely in the sunlight. The car sped towards the Jinxiu Xiangjiang Grand Hotel. They were going to attend the wedding of Yunxi's high school classmate, Lin Yu, and their classmate, Jiang Cheng. "Shiyan-ji, I really didn't expect Lin Yu and Jiang Cheng to actually make it to the end. It seems like everyone around me is quite loyal. They all win the long run of love." And Yunxi murmured softly, her voice tinged with nostalgia. Memories of high school flooded her mind like a tide. Back then, Jiang Cheng was the class monitor, excelling in both academics and conduct, always speaking confidently from the podium. Lin Yu, on the other hand, was a cheerful girl who loved to dance, and was always a regular at school arts events. Standing together, they looked like a perfectly matched couple on campus. Back then, everyone thought it was just a naive crush from their youth. No one expected that this love would transcend the long years and blossom into marriage. Zhou Shiyan turned his head slightly, glancing at Yunxi, his eyes full of tenderness. Yes, love is sometimes so wondrous. After all the twists and turns, it's still the same person from the beginning. He reached out and gently took Yunxi's hand, offering her a comforting grip. And Yunxi turned her head, looking at Zhou Shiyan, a sweet smile playing on her lips. With him by her side, it was as if all her memories were bathed in a warm glow. She remembered the scene of their first meeting in the Zhou family's courtyard house. Zhou Shiyan had just entered her world like that, and from then on, her life was different. The car slowly drove on, familiar streets and buildings coming into view, and in Yunxi's heart involuntarily quickened. This city held so many of her youthful memories, those simple and joyful days spent with her classmates. Zhou Shiyan parked the car in front of the hotel. They got out and retrieved the wedding gift they had prepared beforehand, a pair of exquisite brand-name watches. The watch faces were simple yet elegant, the straps soft and comfortable, shimmering gently under the lights. This was a carefully chosen gift, intended to convey their sincerest blessings to the newlyweds. The wedding venue was decorated warmly and romantically, the fragrance of flowers filling the air. As Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan entered the hall, they heard a familiar voice. "Yunxi, you've finally arrived." Lin Yu, dressed in a pure white wedding gown, walked briskly towards them like a beautiful white swan. Her face radiated happiness, her eyes sparkling. And Yunxi rushed forward and hugged Lin Yu tightly, saying, "Lin Yu, you look so beautiful today." "Congratulations." Lin Yu's eyes reddened slightly. Holding Yunxi's hand, she said excitedly, "Yunxi, thank you for coming. You haven't changed a bit in all these years." She looked at Zhou Shiyan, her eyes full of curiosity. And Yunxi smiled and introduced them. "This is my husband, Zhou Shiyan. You should all know him. Brother Shiyan, this is Lin Yu, one of my best friends from high school." Zhou Shiyan smiled politely and extended his hand. "Hello, congratulations to you and Jiang Cheng. Wishing you a happy marriage and a long and happy life together." Lin Yu quickly returned the handshake, smiling. "Thank you. Please come in and sit down. Most of our classmates have arrived." And Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan found a seat. As soon as they sat down, several familiar figures gathered around. "Yunxi, long time no see." Zhao Yu was still as carefree and loud as he was in high school. He was now a fitness instructor with a burly, muscular physique. "Zhao Yu, you haven't changed a bit." And Yunxi greeted him with a smile. Then Su Yao also came over. She was still as quiet and gentle as ever. "Yunxi, it's so nice to see you again," Su Yao said softly. Of course, Lu Wenwen, who was close to both Yunxi and Lin Yu, was also there. Even Huang Yali and her two little followers, Tang Fingjiao and Zheng Min, were seen by Yunxi again. However, the two were no longer following behind Huang Yali. Instead, they sat far away from her, seemingly intending not to say a word. "Oh, it seems they've fallen out?" And Yunxi raised an eyebrow, pondering. Judging from Huang Yali's appearance, things didn't seem too good. After all, the weariness in her eyes was undeniable. However, today was a joyous occasion, and it wasn't appropriate to inquire about such matters. Everyone sat together, chatting about funny things from high school. Those seemingly insignificant little things had now become precious memories. They talked about Jiang Cheng arriving at school early every day to bring Lin Yu breakfast. They also talked about Lin Yu staying up late rehearsing for the arts performance. They also talked about the days when everyone worked hard for the college entrance examination, those nights spent studying late into the night, and those words of encouragement to each other, as if it were just yesterday. And Yunxi leaned on Zhou Shiyan's shoulder, listening quietly to everyone's conversation, her heart filled with emotion. Zhou Shiyan gently put his arm around her shoulder, not interrupting casually, only speaking briefly when asked a question. Attentive to Yunxi's feelings, he looked at the radiant smile on her face and felt immense happiness. He knew how important these memories were to her. And he was also grateful to have entered her life and become a part of her future. Soon, the wedding officially began. Jiang Cheng, dressed in a sharp suit, stood on the stage, his eyes filled with deep affection as he watched Lin Yu slowly walk towards them. Watching this scene, Yunxi couldn't help but recall all the moments she and Zhou Shiyan had shared. The sunrises and sunsets they had watched together, the streets and alleys they had walked together. Those seemingly ordinary everyday moments now flashed repeatedly in Yunxi's mind like scenes from a movie, each frame so clear and unforgettable. She slowly turned her head, her gaze as still as water, gazing quietly at Zhou Shiyan's handsome face, her mind replaying scenes from their wedding. Time flies so fast, for years have passed in the blink of an eye. Now, looking back, every moment of that grand and romantic wedding is as vivid and clear as if it just happened. Just as Yunxi was immersed in her memories, the MC's passionate and energetic voice suddenly rang out, instantly pulling her back to reality. The wedding proceeded smoothly. The newlyweds exchanged rings and made their lifelong promises. Amidst the cheers of the crowd, Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan gave them a thunderous round of applause. After the wedding banquet began, everyone raised their glasses in celebration, the atmosphere warm and harmonious. Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan also expressed their blessings to the newlyweds during the toasts. Congratulations on your marriage. May you live a long and happy life together. Jiang Cheng, we're entrusting Yaya to you now. You have to treat her well. That's right. Yaya is such a good girl. You can't bully her. Jiang Cheng, did you hear that? If you dare to treat Yaya badly, I won't let you off the hook. Okay, I promise you, I will absolutely, definitely, and certainly treat Yaya well. Everyone, please keep an eye on me, okay? That's more like it. You're one to back it up. Amidst the cheers and laughter, the lively wedding gradually drew to a close. Yunxi smiled, waved goodbye to her classmates with Zhou Shiyan, and slowly walked out of the hotel. Today in Yunzhou, the sky was exceptionally blue, and the sun shone brightly. The warm winter sun seemed to have driven away all the cold. Yunxi took a deep breath, savoring the atmosphere of the city. I'm really happy today, Yunxi whispered. Zhou Shiyan squeezed her hand, smiling, and said, Don't envy them, we'll be even happier. Yunxi leaned against Zhou Shiyan and nodded, Yes, we definitely will. And so, the couple strolled hand in hand, leisurely through the bustling streets of Yunzhou. Their shadows, stretched long and thin in the golden sunlight, seemed to be an eternal snapshot of this beautiful scene. At this moment, time seemed to stand still. The surrounding noise faded away, and only their two figures, nestled together, remained in the world. They quietly immersed themselves in their own warm world, sharing this rare tranquility and happiness. And the stories of youth and love continued in the city, awaiting the next beautiful chapter. That day, the couple went for a walk, watched a movie, shopped, and ate out, not returning to the Yun family villa until almost 11 p.m. When Yunxi got home, she found her parents sitting in the living room waiting for them. Dad, Mom, why aren't you asleep yet? How could your mother sleep if she didn't see you come back? And Jianhua answered first, hearing his daughter's question. Fang Mingxia glared at her husband and said, You talk as if you can sleep. Xiaoxi, Ian, Aunt Kong has made fruit tea in the kitchen. Have some before you go to sleep. And Yunxi felt both heartache and gratitude. Her parents usually went to bed long ago at this time, but they were still up waiting for them. I know, Mom. You two go to sleep now. Seeing that her parents had gone upstairs to sleep, Yunxi went to the kitchen and immediately saw the fruit tea warming on the induction cooker. She picked up the teapot, and 2 cups as well. Let's take it upstairs to drink. Okay, whatever you say. Zhou Shiyan seemed to agree with whatever his wife said, which made Yunxi laugh. And so, Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan stayed in Yunzhou for the Spring Festival. This year, it was Yunxi's turn to spend the new year at her home. On New Year's Eve, Grandpa and Grandma An, along with Uncle N and Uncle N's families, gathered at the Lushan Yunjing Villa. The An family could now be considered a 4-generation household. Eldest brother in Yunchuan and Zhang Weiwei's son, and Jiheng, was already over 2 years old. However, what surprised the whole family even more was that in Yunzhou, who was always focused on his career, actually returned with his girlfriend. Their love story was quite dramatic. Initially, An Yunzhou went to the Beijing hometown exchange event with the intention of seeking business opportunities. Unexpectedly, while he didn't find any business opportunities, he unexpectedly found true love and successfully won her heart. Grandpa and Grandma An, along with Uncle N and Aunt An, were overjoyed. As Fang Yuan chatted warmly with the elders in the family, and Yunxi couldn't help but observe her closely. Fang Yuan was beautiful, elegant, and poised, her conversation revealing intelligence and wit. Faced with the elder's concerned inquiries, she maintained a smile, answering politely and sincerely, clearly winning everyone's favor. It was obvious that she was a quintessential modern, independent woman with a distinct personality. What was truly admirable was that, despite her independence, she showed no signs of being aggressive or overbearing. Observing her conversation with the elders, her attitude was gentle and polite, her words and actions measured and appropriate. She hadn't known that her second brother would like a girl like this. However, she was genuinely happy for her second brother that he had found love. Inside the spacious and bright kitchen of the in-family home, a busy yet warm scene unfolded. The two aunts and Fang Mingxia were busily working, the clatter of pots and pans creating a unique symphony. Seeing this, the younger generation quickly washed their hands and joined in the lively culinary feast. Some washed the vegetables, carefully rinsing the vibrant green leaves. Others wielded knives, skillfully slicing the ingredients into even pieces. Everyone had their assigned task, working efficiently and methodically. As night slowly fell, the city lights gradually illuminated the city, twinkling like stars across the bustling land. After careful preparation, a sumptuous New Year's Eve dinner was laid out on the table. Each dish exuded an enticing aroma, its vibrant colors making one's mouth water. The braised fish, with its glossy red color and tender, juicy flesh, symbolized a bountiful harvest and abundance each year. Golden and crispy spring rolls, a gentle bite reveals their boundless deliciousness. And then there's the plate of dumplings, a symbol of family reunion, small and exquisite, like works of art. Each dish is more than just simple food. It embodies deep family affection and the warmth of home. Everyone sits joyfully around the table, raising their glasses together, exchanging the best wishes for the new year. Grandpa, with a kind smile, said slowly, "In this brand new year, may our whole family be safe and healthy." Everyone smiled and nodded, raising their glasses together and shouting, "Happy New Year!" With these joyful and auspicious words, everyone tilted their heads back and drank their wine in one gulp, then enthusiastically began to savor the delicious dishes on the table. Zhou Shiyan, quick as a flash, immediately placed a piece of fish, and Yunxi's favorite food, on his plate. And Yunxi looked at the fish in her bowl with delight, about to put it in her mouth to savor it. But for some reason, the fish, which usually made her mouth water, now had a faint fishy smell when she brought it to her lips. However, she didn't pay much attention to it, simply assuming that perhaps too little ginger had been used in the cooking. However, just as Yunxi was about to take a bite of the fish, a sudden, overwhelming wave of nausea washed over her, instantly extinguishing her appetite. Her face paled, and without thinking, she hurriedly covered her mouth and staggered towards the bathroom. Zhou Shiyan, seeing this, felt a sudden tightness in his chest, his face filled with undisguised worry. Without a word, he immediately put down his chopsticks, stood up, and followed closely behind Yunxi to the bathroom. Leaving behind a group of relatives and friends at the dinner table, looking at each other in bewilderment. Fang Mingxia, sitting to the side, exchanged glances with her mother-in-law, both of them simultaneously conjuring up the same guess. Meanwhile, in the bathroom, Yunxi was hunched over the sink, retching incessantly, as if she were about to vomit up her internal organs. Zhou Shiyan stood beside her, gently patting her back, his eyes filled with deep concern. He anxiously asked, "Yunxi, what's wrong? Did you eat something bad?" And Yunxi weakly shook her head, her heart filled with confusion and unease. What's wrong with her? Suddenly, a thought flashed through her mind, and her heart pounded. Could it be? She didn't say anything, as nothing was certain yet. When Yunxi returned to the living room, she tried to appear calm, but Zhou Shiyan still noticed her unusual behavior. Fang Mingxia pulled her daughter aside and whispered, "Is your period due this month?" And Yunxi thought for a moment and replied, "It's a week late." Her period sometimes came a few days late, and she hadn't really thought much of it before. Hearing this, Fang Mingxia's eyes lit up. She excitedly grabbed Yunxi's shoulders, her voice tinged with nervousness. Xiaoxi, you're not pregnant, are you? I don't know yet, Mom. I have a pregnancy test in my room. I'll go take it first. Okay, go ahead. Seeing Yunxi quickly go upstairs, she called out anxiously, slow down, don't run. At the same time, Zhou Shiyan, who had been silently observing everything, snapped out of his daze. Without hesitation, he strode up, following closely behind Yunxi, and they ran quickly upstairs together. Back in a room, Yunxi grabbed the pregnancy test and disappeared into the bathroom. Zhou Shiyan paced anxiously outside the door. Time ticked by, each minute feeling like an eternity. Finally, after what seemed like an endless wait, the tightly closed door slowly opened a crack. Yunxi slowly peeked out from under the door, her beautiful eyes filled with confusion and bewilderment. Her right hand was clutching a pregnancy test, which clearly showed 2 prominent red lines. Seeing this result, Zhou Shiyan's heart pounded. He rushed to the door, gently embraced Yunxi, and asked in a trembling voice, Yunxi, we're having a baby, right? Yunxi nestled in his arms, both surprised and delighted. Yes, Shiyan-ji, you're going to be a father. Upon hearing this, Zhou Shiyan hugged her even tighter. Yunxi, thank you. Thank you for being with me. Thank you for marrying me. Thank you for letting me understand the meaning of love. Meanwhile, downstairs in the restaurant, everyone was anxiously awaiting news. About 10 minutes later, soft footsteps finally came from the stairs. Everyone immediately stopped talking and turned their gaze in that direction. Seeing Zhou Shiyan carefully supporting Yunxi, everyone understood it was good news. However, although everyone already had the answer in their hearts, no one dared to ask rashly until the person involved confirmed it themselves. A brief silence fell over the entire restaurant, with only the soft footsteps of Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi echoing in the air. Back at the table, Yunxi, seeing everyone's expectant gazes, nodded slightly, a shy yet happy smile spreading across her face. That's wonderful. We're going to have a great-grandchild again. Grandpa broke the silence first, his wrinkled face beaming with joy, his mouth almost reaching his ears. His eyes shone with excitement, and he looked remarkably energetic, as if he had suddenly become 10 years younger. Grandma An's eyes were also full of joy and care, her smile wide, and she added with concern, Yunxi, you must take good care of yourself from now on. Hearing this, the 2 aunts and Fang Mingxia also gathered around, chattering away, telling Yunxi about the various things to pay attention to during pregnancy. One said to eat a balanced diet, another emphasized the importance of a regular sleep schedule. Some reminded her to exercise appropriately to maintain her health, while others emphasized the crucial role of a cheerful mood in fetal development. The dinner table was bustling with activity, everyone eager to share all their knowledge and experience with Yunxi. Meanwhile, her eldest and second uncle stood up and walked over to Zhou Shiyan, patting him firmly on the shoulder and saying earnestly, Shiyan, you must take good care of Yunxi and the baby. Zhou Shiyan nodded solemnly, replying, Dad, don't worry, uncles, I will definitely take good care of Yunxi. Seeing this, Grandpa waved his hand and announced loudly, Xiaoxi is pregnant. This is a great joy for our family. Let's all raise a glass to celebrate and wish Xiaoxi and the baby a safe, healthy, and successful pregnancy. Sister, when my nephew and niece are born, I'll definitely prepare a big gift for the baby. Hee. I'll even teach the child to call him uncle. Xiaozi, it's useless to teach a newborn baby. I don't care. The child's first uncle must be mine. Okay, we won't argue with you, all right? That's more like it. Ian, such great news. You should tell your in-laws quickly. The couple then remembered. They were too excited and completely forgot about this. So, Zhou Shiyan made a call, and the Zhou family also experienced a pleasant surprise. Yunxi immediately made a video call to Yunxi. Yunxi, how are you feeling now? Is there anything uncomfortable? Mom, I just feel a little nauseous from the smell of fish. Nothing else. I'll go to the hospital for a checkup tomorrow. Okay. Be sure to tell me if you feel uncomfortable, Yunxi reminded her worriedly. Also, if you can't handle things at the company, let Ian help you. You can't overwork yourself. Mom, I know. I'll take good care of myself. Amidst the blessings and care of her family, Yunxi felt an unprecedented happiness. This new year, a festival already filled with joy and peace, gained a unique color because of this little life that came into their lives, making it all the more meaningful. At this moment, fireworks burst brilliantly in the night sky outside the window, their colorful lights illuminating the entire night sky and their hopeful future. Because of Yunxi's pregnancy, the family didn't allow the young couple to stay up all night on New Year's Eve. After a sumptuous New Year's Eve dinner, Mingxia urged the two to go back to their room to rest early. It was still early before the clock struck midnight, but the night was already deep and dark, and the city's hustle and bustle gradually subsided. Only the intermittent sounds of fireworks and firecrackers seemed to be the approaching footsteps of the new year. Yunxi lay quietly on the bed, her eyes fixed on the ceiling, her thoughts a jumbled mess. Her hand unconsciously went to her lower abdomen. There, a new life was quietly growing. But this news brought not only the joy of becoming a mother for the first time, but also an unspeakable fear and confusion. Who could have imagined that Yunxi, who had traversed several worlds and lived several lifetimes, would be a mother for the first time? Tossing and turning in bed, unable to fall asleep, Yunxi finally couldn't help but turn to her side, casting her gaze on Zhou Shiyan beside her. Through the dim light of the nightlight, Yunxi saw Zhou Shiyan's handsome face. His facial features appeared even softer in the light. His usually somewhat aloof eyes were now completely relaxed, his thick eyelashes casting a small shadow on his eyelids. In fact, Zhou Shiyan, even with his eyes closed, was not asleep at this moment. Yunxi was somewhat upset upon learning of the pregnancy, and so was he. Just then, under Yunxi's tender and concerned gaze, Zhou Shiyan seemed to sense the warmth in her eyes and slowly opened his eyes. "Husband, did I wake you?" "I couldn't sleep either, Yunxi, what's wrong?" Zhou Shiyan's voice was slightly hoarse, but for some reason, it brought a sense of peace to Yunxi's ears. Yunxi sat up, leaning against the soft pillow, and took a deep breath. "I can't sleep either." Zhou Shiyan sat up as well, turning on the bedside lamp. Instantly, warm yellow light poured out like mercury, dispelling the darkness that had filled the room. He looked at Yunxi with concern. "Are you feeling unwell?" Yunxi shook her head, remained silent for a moment, and then said softly, "No, I'm just a little nervous." Actually, Zhou Shiyan was also feeling both excited and nervous. But he couldn't show it, and he certainly couldn't let Yunxi feel that way. Moreover, he had to provide Yunxi with strong support. Thinking this, he slowly reached out and gently but firmly pulled his wife into his embrace, softly patting her shoulder to comfort her. Yunxi turned slightly, nestled quietly in his warm, broad embrace, listening to his strong, powerful heartbeat. Those steady, powerful beats seemed to convey a silent promise and reliance. Even so, the unease in her heart hadn't completely dissipated. Seemingly sensing her unease, Zhou Shiyan released her, gently cupping her face in his hands, looking intently into her eyes. "Wife, don't be nervous, I'm here. Don't worry." Yunxi hesitated for a moment, then said uncertainly, "Brother Shiyan, do you think we can be good parents to our child?" After saying this, her gaze returned to Zhou Shiyan, as if seeking a reassuring answer from him. Raising a living, breathing child to adulthood and nurturing them into a successful individual is no easy feat, Zhou Shiyan tenderly stroked her cheek. "Silly girl, this is our first time being parents. No one is born knowing how. We can learn together, grow together, and accompany our baby as they grow." Yunxi took a deep breath and whispered, "I think I'm becoming a little sentimental. To think that she, the world's richest woman, would become so insecure because of pregnancy. Even she herself hadn't anticipated this day would come." Zhou Shiyan pulled her back into his arms, gently patting her back. "Yunxi, I'll always be with you. No matter what difficulties we encounter, we'll face them together." Feeling the warmth and strength in Zhou Shiyan's embrace, Yunxi nodded gently in his arms. Her previously restless heart calmed down slightly. After a moment of silence, she looked up into Zhou Shiyan's eyes and asked hesitantly, "Will our lives change a lot from now on?" Zhou Shiyan smiled gently, a smile as warm as the gentlest spring sunshine, making one feel warm inside. He lowered his head and kissed Yunxi's forehead, saying softly, "Life will definitely change, but these are good changes. The arrival of the baby will bring more joy and warmth to our lives. As for anything else, as long as we understand and tolerate each other, there's no obstacle we can't overcome." And Yunxi slowly raised her head, her gaze fixed on Zhou Shiyan's incredibly resolute and deeply affectionate eyes. In that instant, a powerful force seemed to surge forth from the depths of her heart. "You're right, Brother Shiyan." The corners of her mouth turned up slightly, like a flower blooming in spring, gently outlining a captivating curve, while a gentle and sweet smile spread across her face. "Let's look forward to the baby's arrival together." Zhou Shiyan smiled and gently kissed Yunxi's forehead. "Yes, let's look forward to it together. I will give you and the baby the happiest home." Then, the two nestled together, chatting enthusiastically about everything related to the baby. They talked for a long time, from the baby's name to future parenting plans and their various expectations for the baby. Unbeknownst to them, the sky outside the window was already beginning to lighten. And on this night filled with love, Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan faced the challenges and hopes brought by the new life together. Their love, at this moment, became even deeper and more steadfast. On the first day of the Lunar New Year, the weather was clear and the sun was shining brightly. Yunxi gently woke up in the quiet. Beside her, Zhou Shiyan was still fast asleep, his face appearing exceptionally serene in the soft light. His high, straight nose, slightly pursed-thin lips, and usually sharp features now held a hint of languor. Yunxi rose gently, her movements careful, afraid of waking him. She stood by the window, gazing at the snow-covered world outside. Pure white snowflakes drifted down, blanketing the earth, trees, and houses, making everything appear so pure and beautiful. However, faced with such a dreamlike scene, Yunxi's feelings were complex and indescribable. She unconsciously reached out her right hand and gently stroked her flat stomach, where a new life was quietly growing. Although the pregnancy was still very early, there was no obvious sign of her belly protruding. But Yunxi knew clearly that this tiny life was thriving within her. Since learning she was pregnant, she felt as if her once familiar world had suddenly undergone a dramatic change. Just then, a deep, magnetic voice came from behind her. "Yunxi, why are you up so early?" His voice was still hoarse from just waking up, which sounded quite charming. He got up, walked to Yunxi's side, and gently embraced her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. "Let's go to the hospital for a checkup today." After saying that, he placed a light kiss on Yunxi's cheek. Yunxi nodded slightly and softly murmured, After quickly getting ready, the two went downstairs, ate breakfast, and then went out. Fang Mingxia, worried about her daughter who had gotten up so early, repeatedly confirmed, "Xiaoxi, are you sure you don't need Mom to go with you? These two young people don't know anything, and they won't let her go." She couldn't help but worry. "Mom, I'm just going for a checkup, not to give birth. What are you worried about?" Yunxi looked at her mother helplessly. Seeing her mother's alarmed expression, an unsuspecting passerby might mistake her for someone about to be taken to the delivery room. Seeing her daughter's insistence, Fang Mingxia had no choice but to nod in relenting, saying, all right. Since you're so determined, then you can go by yourselves. But if anything happens or there's any problem, remember to call Mom right away." "Okay." Yunxi replied casually. Seeing her daughter's nonchalant and indifferent attitude, Fang Mingxia couldn't help but feel a pang of dissatisfaction, muttering softly, "That girl." Just then, Zhou Shiyan gently took Yunxi's hand, smiling as he assured Fang Mingxia, "Mom, don't worry, I'll take good care of her." After saying that, he looked tenderly at Yunxi, his eyes filled with care and love. It was already 9:30 in the morning when the two drove out. Along the way, The houses on both sides of the street stood side by side, each with a large red lantern hanging high at its door. The bright red looked even more dazzling and festive against the backdrop of the white snow. The exquisite spring festival couplets were also neatly pasted up, the flowing calligraphy seemingly expressing wishes for a prosperous new year. However, the lively and festive scene failed to attract Yunxi's attention. Her entire focus was on the baby in her still flat belly. Zhou Shiyan seemed to sense her tension and held her hand tightly. He occasionally gently stroked the back of her hand with his thumb, offering silent comfort. At the hospital, there weren't many people. After all, not many people come to the hospital on the first day of the Lunar New Year. Entering the hospital lobby, the quiet environment only made Yunxi's already tense nerves tighten even more. Guided by a nurse, Yunxi lay down on the examination bed. When the doctor applied the cold coupling gel to her belly, the sudden chill instantly spread throughout her body, causing her to shiver involuntarily. Zhou Shiyan, who had been by her side the whole time, held her hand firmly, never letting go for a moment. His deep, pool-like eyes were fixed intently on the monitor, afraid to miss a single detail. Time ticked by, the room quiet except for the soft hum of the machines and the slightly heavy breathing of the occupants. Finally, the doctor's voice broke the silence. Congratulations. It's indeed a pregnancy, and based on the current test results, both the mother and baby are doing very well. Hearing this, Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan both breathed a sigh of relief, their hearts finally settling down. At that moment, Yunxi slowly opened her eyes, looking at the tiny gestational sac on the monitor. Although it looked like a blurry little, to Yunxi, it was the very beginning of life, carrying endless hope and love. Unconsciously, Yunxi's eyes welled up with tears. It was the fruit of her and Zhou Shiyan's love, their hope for the future. After leaving the hospital, Zhou Shiyan's face beamed with happiness. Honey, we really are having a baby, Zhou Shiyan's voice trembled with excitement. He gripped Yunxi's hand tightly, as if afraid it was all just a dream. He said excitedly, I'll definitely be a good father. Yunxi looked at him, her heart filled with emotion. Once upon a time, he was a ruthless and decisive figure in the business world, a cold and merciless war god. But now, he was like an innocent child, overjoyed by the impending arrival of a new life. Let's go buy some things for the baby, Zhou Shiyan suggested. The two first-time parents didn't consider that the baby's arrival was still a long way off. Their only thought was to prepare things for the baby. And so, hand in hand, they happily entered a cozy maternity and baby store. The shelves inside were filled with a dazzling array of baby products. The adorable little clothes were brightly colored and beautifully patterned, some printed with cute animals, others embroidered with playful flowers. There were also delicate little shoes, uniquely designed and of excellent quality, as if tailor-made for angels. And there were stacks of incredibly soft little blankets, as gentle as clouds to the touch. Yunxi loved everything. Honey, what do you think of this pink outfit? Isn't it super cute? She picked up a soft pink baby dress, holding it up in front of her, her face radiant with maternal love. It would look so beautiful on a little princess. Zhou Shiyan smiled and nodded. It looks good. Our baby looks good in anything. Then he picked up a blue outfit. This would be nice too if it were a little prince. We don't know if it's a boy or a girl yet. Should we buy them both? One of them dared to say it, and the other dared to do it. They carefully selected every item in the store, from soft blankets to tiny pacifiers, to all sorts of adorable toys. They wanted almost everything in pairs. So, they bought one of everything, whether it was for a boy or a girl. The two strolled leisurely through the store, occasionally stopping to carefully select various baby supplies. Time slipped by unnoticed, and before they knew it, their shopping baskets were full, which were then replaced by several large bags. Finally, as they stepped out of the store, satisfied, they were surprised to find the sun already high overhead. The winter sun gently bathed the pristine snow, as if draping this silver-clad world in a golden veil. The dazzling light reflected off the snow was almost blinding. The two returned home laden with bags of groceries, leaving Jianhua, Fang Mingxia, and Yunza all stunned. Fang Mingxia's eyes widened, her face filled with disbelief as she asked first, What? What happened? Did you rob a supermarket? Hearing her mother's words, Yunxi smiled somewhat embarrassedly and explained, Mom, don't make a fuss. We just bought some things the baby will need later. However, Fang Mingxia still found it hard to believe and couldn't help but press, but she's only been pregnant for a month. Why buy so much already? Although she didn't say the unfinished sentence, isn't this a bit too hasty? But the clever Yunxi immediately understood what her mother meant. At this moment, Yunxi herself seemed to suddenly come to her senses, realizing that she had indeed been a bit too hasty. After all, she still had a long pregnancy to go through. Buying such a large amount of stuff now not only took up space, but also required a lot of effort to carry it all the way to Beijing, which was really creating trouble for herself. Thinking of this, Yunxi couldn't help but turn to look at Zhou Shiyan beside her, who was also looking at her. The moment their eyes met, the couple seemed to realize something simultaneously, a hint of embarrassment and helplessness appearing on their faces. For a moment, neither of them knew how to respond to the situation and could only stand there silently, exchanging glances. After a long while, Zhou Shiyan, who had been silent all along, finally spoke slowly, his voice steady and firm. It's all right, we'll take a private jet. We can bring as many as we want. The new parents were too excited and couldn't control themselves. It was understandable. Yunxi nodded upon hearing this, still somewhat dazed. Ahemziaxi, what did the hospital checkup say? At this crucial moment, Jianhua spoke up, changing the subject and breaking the awkward silence. Dad, I am indeed pregnant. The doctor said the baby and I are both fine. Seeing that Yunxi didn't speak, Zhou Shiyan replied. Upon hearing the news, Jianhua's face immediately lit up with a relieved smile, and he nodded repeatedly, saying, That's good. That's good. That's wonderful. You went shopping and bought so much stuff. Aren't you tired? Yunxi gently shook her head and said softly, I'm fine, not tired. Actually, for Yunxi, who was filled with joy at this moment, the feeling was more excitement and anticipation. As for physical fatigue, it was almost negligible. You're carrying twins now. Don't be like before. Fang Mingxia knew her daughter's personality. She was always on the go. Your mother's right. Let's stop running and martial arts for now, and talk about it again after the baby is born. Both were first-time parents, and what if something unexpected happened? Mom and Dad, don't worry, we know what we're doing, Zhou Shiyan assured her. He had already consulted and memorized all the precautions for pregnancy and childbirth at the hospital. He would definitely take good care of his wife and child. From that day on, Yunxi began her leisurely pregnancy lifestyle, spending her days eating and sleeping, truly living a carefree and blissful life. Because she was found to be pregnant, their planned trip back to Beijing had to be postponed for more than a month. By the time they boarded their private jet and returned to Beijing, it was already March, with spring in full bloom. Yunxi was now 3 months pregnant. Back in Beijing, Yunxi spent most of her time relaxing, except for occasional video and conference calls with her subordinates. She spent her days at home watching TV, watering her plants, and occasionally doing prenatal yoga, living a very leisurely life. To Yunxi's surprise, Zhou Shiyan, her husband, the decisive and efficient businessman, was incredibly gentle and tender in her presence. From the moment he learned of her pregnancy, his entire world revolved around her. He canceled all unnecessary social engagements, returning home early every day just to spend more time with Yunxi. He even learned to cook for her, preparing various dishes she loved every day. Every morning, as the first rays of sunlight streamed into the room, Zhou Shiyan would quietly get out of bed, go into the kitchen, and prepare a nutritious breakfast for Yunxi. Zhou Shiyan never just made any breakfast, because he would meticulously select the freshest ingredients and prepare a variety of delicious dishes, all to satisfy Yunxi's ever-changing tastes during her pregnancy. Sometimes, he would fry a golden, crispy egg pancake paired with a cup of fragrant, hot milk. Other times, he would cook a steaming bowl of vegetable and lean meat porridge along with a refreshing side dish. In short, every breakfast was carefully prepared by Zhou Shiyan, brimming with his deep love for Yunxi. Wife, try my new shrimp and vegetable porridge. I chopped the shrimp into small pieces, so they're easy to digest. The man sat down at the table, a smile on his face, holding the steaming porridge, looking tenderly at Yunxi. Yunxi took the porridge, took a small sip, and smiled happily. It's delicious. Thank you for your hard work. Hearing his wife's praise, the man was overjoyed. He couldn't help but reach out his right hand and gently stroke Yunxi's hair, saying affectionately, "As long as you and the baby are well, nothing I do is hard work." Her mother-in-law, Yunxi, also frequently made time to visit her after learning of Yunxi's pregnancy. Each time she came, she brought various kinds of nourishing foods and things the baby might need. Meanwhile, Yunxi's parents Manhwa and Fangmingxia, though far away, their care for their daughter never diminished. Every 2 or 3 days, they would call to inquire about Yunxi's health, whether her diet was satisfactory, and how well she was sleeping. They would also frequently send her boxes filled with Yunxi's favorite local specialties, allowing her to taste the flavors of home even while far away. Even Yunxi's younger brother, Yunxi, despite his busy studies, would find time to visit his sister. Every time he came, he would bring some novel and interesting trinkets just to make his sister smile and cheer her up during her pregnancy. "Sis, if there's anything you want to eat or use, just tell me and I'll get it for you." The younger brother, Yunxi, patted his chest confidently, assuring his sister with unwavering certainty. Yunxi looked at her adorable and confident brother and couldn't help but chuckle. "Oh ho, you little rascal, you've got quite the nerve. But with you taking on so much responsibility, what about your brother-in-law?" Now, whatever she wanted to eat or use, before she could even voice it, her thoughtful and considerate husband, Zhou Shiyan, had already fulfilled her every wish. No one else had a chance to worry about it. Yunxi said nonchalantly, "How can that be the same? Brother-in-law is brother-in-law, but the baby in your belly will be calling me uncle." Hearing this, Yunxi couldn't help but laugh. She gently stroked her slightly protruding belly and softly replied, "Okay, then I'll thank uncle on behalf of the baby." As soon as she finished speaking, the siblings smiled at each other, filling the room with a warm and joyful atmosphere. After laughing, Yunxi seemed to suddenly remember something important and quickly asked with concern, "By the way, Xiaoza, have you finished with your graduate school application?" Yunxi is a senior this year. She'd heard he got a guaranteed spot in a master's program, but Yunxi hadn't asked about the follow-up. "Sis, it's all confirmed. He's in the economics program at this university." "That's good. Focus on your studies these next 2 years, and remember to relax when you need to. Go out with your classmates. After graduation, things won't be easy. Dad's waiting for you to take over the family company soon." As far as Yunxi knew, her father was hoping his son would take over the company so he could retire. In fact, several years ago, Manhwa had proposed handing the company over to Yunxi. "Dad, you're giving me the company. What about Xiaoza? He has things too. He has money and a house. As long as he doesn't squander it, it's enough for him." "Dad, please don't. I have enough businesses. She already has enough. There's no need for her to take anything from the family." She had no objection to giving the family company to her brother. Besides, when she got married, her parents had already given her half of what was due, converted into real estate, land shares, and cash. Seeing that his daughter really didn't want to take it over, Manhwa pursed his lips with some regret. He thought he could retire early. "Xiaoxi, don't mind your dad. He just wants to be lazy and is only thinking about retiring early to enjoy his retirement." Recalling her father's regretful look back then, Yunxi still found it a little funny. Hearing her sister's words, Yunxi's lips twitched slightly and he replied helplessly, "Our dad is only 50 years old this year at most." "So, what if he's 50? Can't he think about retiring at 50? Yunxi pouted somewhat dissatisfiedly, muttering, "What dad retires before he's 50? He still has to study. He can't possibly get a job at the company before graduation. Even if he did get a job, it would take him several years to learn and grow." In his opinion, his father is still a long way from retirement. Dad is just saying that. Don't take it too seriously. Just follow your own path. Even if you don't want to take over the family business, there are other ways to handle it. And Yunxi didn't necessarily want her child to inherit the family business. Everyone's life is unique and irreplaceable. If a child resists, you can't force them to drink water. Sister, I know. It's just that the timing isn't right yet. It's not that he doesn't want to take over the family business. His parents have already built an empire for him. If he says he doesn't care about money, that would be hypocritical and pretentious. It's just that suddenly going from a college student to the head of such a large corporation is something he can't adapt to. He needs to be trained and tempered. His actual plan was to find an internship in Beijing during his graduate studies to gain experience. After graduation, he would join Yunnan Group to work and learn simultaneously. Once he had experience, he would begin to handle the group's management affairs, learning and getting started at the same time. This way, he would have a chance to learn and grow. It wasn't like his father had said, that he could retire and let go so easily. It's good that you understand. And in Yunxi's heart, her younger brother was intelligent and capable. Aside from lacking some experience, he was more than qualified to be her successor. However, she wasn't worried about experience. After all, her father was still young. Besides, if any problems arose, she would lend a hand. Therefore, she wasn't too worried about her brother's future. And Yunxi's pregnancy, though uneventful, was filled with warmth. Her husband, Zhou Shiyan, would gently massage her and tell her beautiful stories when she couldn't sleep at night. When Yunxi was feeling down, her mother-in-law, Yunxi, would patiently comfort her, telling her that every expectant mother goes through this and to keep a positive attitude. Her parents' constant care also made her feel a strong sense of family love even in a foreign land. However, pregnancy wasn't always smooth sailing. And Yunxi would occasionally feel irritable due to physical discomfort, and Zhou Shiyan would always silently endure her little tantrums, patiently comforting her. Once, Yunxi cried from the pain of a leg cramp. Zhou Shiyan's eyes reddened with heartache. He gently massaged the cramped area, blaming himself. It's all my fault. I didn't take good care of you. Seeing his anxious expression, Yunxi smiled through her tears. It's not your fault. It's normal. I feel very safe with you by my side. As her belly grew bigger each day, Yunxi's anticipation for the baby grew stronger. Zhou Shiyan would lie on her belly, talking to the baby and singing to it, as if he could already feel the baby's response. In the blink of an eye, Yunxi was 5 months pregnant, her belly gradually growing larger. She often stroked her belly, feeling the wonderful changes brought about by this little life. Zhou Shiyan always made time for her every day. No matter how busy he was with work, he would come home on time to have dinner with Yunxi and then take a walk together. This day, Yunxi was sitting on the sofa watching TV as usual. Suddenly, she felt a slight movement in her belly, like a small fish swimming. She was startled at first, then realized it was probably the baby moving. She excitedly called to Zhou Shiyan, "Honey, come quick. The baby seems to move." At that moment, Zhou Shiyan was cutting fruit in the kitchen. Hearing Yunxi's call, he immediately put down the fruit knife and hurried to the sofa. He carefully sat down beside Yunxi, gently placing his hand on her belly, his eyes fixed on it, filled with nervous anticipation. After a while, the baby moved again, and Zhou Shiyan exclaimed in surprise, "It really moved." A happy smile spread across his face, his eyes sparkling with the joy of becoming a father for the first time. He gently leaned down and said to Yunxi's belly, "Baby, hello there, it's daddy. Be a good boy/girl." And Yunxi chuckled. Baby's only 5 months old. How can he understand? That's not necessarily true. Maybe the baby and I have a special connection. I'll talk to the baby on the phone every day. The baby will definitely understand. Looking at the man's doting fatherly demeanor, Yunxi found it a little funny. Yes, you're absolutely right. From then on, Zhou Shiyan paid extra attention to fetal movements. Every night before bed, he would lie in bed with Yunxi, placing his hand on her belly, waiting for the baby's movements. If the baby moved, he would excitedly share it with Yunxi. Sometimes he would even chat with the baby, telling interesting little stories. "Baby, were you a good girl in mommy's tummy today?" When you're born, Daddy will take you to see the sea and ride the carousel. Okay? Zhou Shiyan's gentle voice echoed in the quiet room, and Yunxi nestled in his arms, her face beaming with happiness. As the pregnancy progressed, Zhou Shiyan placed increasing emphasis on prenatal education. He bought many books on prenatal education, studied them diligently, and even developed a detailed prenatal education plan. Every evening, he would play soft classical music. Mozart and Beethoven pieces became frequent guests in their home. He would also hold Yunxi's hand and sway gently with her to the music, imagining the baby in her belly dancing joyfully. Besides music prenatal education, Zhou Shiyan would also read stories to the baby. He would choose heartwarming and interesting fairy tales, such as The Little Prince and Grimm's fairy tales, reading them aloud in a vivid voice. He would imitate the voice of a little rabbit one moment and the tone of the big bad wolf the next, often making Yunxi laugh heartily. During prenatal education, Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi would discuss their baby's future. They would imagine whether the baby would be a boy or a girl, who they would resemble, and what special skills they would learn. Brother Shiyan, do you think the baby is a boy or a girl? Yunxi looked at Zhou Shiyan beside her with expectant eyes, gently stroking her slightly protruding belly, her eyes revealing a tenderness and longing of maternal love. Yunxi wanted a daughter. Perhaps every woman harbors such a beautiful dream. Imagining dressing her little girl in a pretty floral dress, tying her hair in delicate braids, adding all sorts of cute hair clips and bows, making her as adorable as one of those exquisite dolls in a shop window. Moreover, both she and Zhou Shiyan were quite good-looking. If they really had a baby girl, she would surely grow up to be very beautiful, lively, and adorable. Hearing his wife's expectant words, Zhou Shiyan smiled slightly, gently pulling Yunxi into his arms. He said softly, "Boy or girl, they're both our children, both our precious ones." Holding Yunxi close, Zhou Shiyan continued, "If it's a girl, I'll let her learn music or dance to cultivate an elegant temperament. If it's a boy, I'll teach him martial arts, so he can strengthen his body and protect you with me in the future." As he spoke, Zhou Shiyan gently traced the outline of Yunxi's belly with his hand. Yunxi smiled and said, "Whether it's a boy or a girl, as long as he's healthy and happy, that's all that matters." As soon as she finished speaking, the couple smiled at each other, their eyes meeting with boundless anticipation and longing for a bright future. While Yunxi was pregnant, the development of all her businesses proceeded smoothly. Since Huafeng CNC embarked on its international journey, it has rapidly swept through overseas markets like a whirlwind, thanks to its superior technology and high-quality products. Even with the US imposing tariffs and other policies, nothing could stop Huafeng's progress. Today, Huafeng has become the undisputed world leader in the CNC machine tool industry. The Kuroda family, who had once harbored a deep-seated grudge against Yunxi and had gone so far as to send assassins to kill her, faced immediate condemnation from around the world after their shady plot was exposed. Following this, the vast power controlled by Yunxi launched a relentless campaign to annihilate the Kuroda family, pushing them to the brink of collapse. Other forces, seeing their predicament, also seized the opportunity to gradually erode the Kuroda family's influence. To make matters worse, the death of the Kuroda family's heir, Kuroda Tanikawa, due to illness seemed to instantly extinguish all the luck and vitality of this once glorious family. In a short period, it rapidly declined from one of Japan's leading noble families to a mere third-rate clan. However, this was not the end of the Kuroda family's misfortune. When Yunnan Research Institute successfully developed and launched the 1-nanometer lithography machine, it was undoubtedly the final straw for the already struggling Kuroda family. From that point on, the Kuroda family was utterly doomed, with no hope of recovery. Faced with such a dire situation, the entire Kuroda family was shrouded in gloom and despair. Everyone seemed to have lost their backbone, bewildered and unsure how to cope with the current predicament. Especially Kuroda Eiji, the head of the family, was now extremely anxious and overwhelmed. But what could he do? His most valued and hoped-for heir, Kuroda Tanikawa Yuki, had passed away, and the remaining illegitimate son, who who had acted without authorization, not only failed to achieve his goal but also caused the family to suffer heavy losses. For this reason, the elders of the family were extremely dissatisfied with this illegitimate son and resolutely disagreed with making him the heir of the Kuroda family. The once glorious Kuroda family, under the leadership of Kuroda Eiji, has gradually declined, a situation that has already drawn considerable discontent among its members. At this moment, Kuroda Eiji knows he can no longer afford to act rashly. The slightest misstep could lead to even more severe consequences. In truth, he too longs to continue his rivalry with Yunxi. However, times have changed. The Kuroda family is now like an arrow at its last gasp, having long lost its former glory. On the other hand, Yunxi's side is thriving at its zenith. Kuroda Eiji is fully aware that with the Kuroda family's current power and his own ambition, he is simply no match for her. Therefore, he has no other ambitions at the moment, only hoping to maintain the family's current strength. As for anything else, he dares not harbor any further hopes. Boss, that's roughly the situation with the Kuroda family recently. Should we continue the surveillance? Lin Yu asked respectfully after giving a detailed report. Continue monitoring them, just in case the Kuroda makes any unusual moves. We're unprepared and put on the defensive. And Yunxi stared intently into the distance, deep in thought. She firmly believed in the old saying, if you don't cut the weeds at the root, they'll grow back in the spring breeze. Therefore, she absolutely didn't want to leave even the slightest potential threat. But she had already brought down the entire Kuroda family. Continuing to eliminate them would put her at a disadvantage in public opinion. After all, the Kuroda family was now the weaker party. People tend to sympathize with the weak and condemn those who abuse them. So, she either needed to find another opportunity or act covertly. But now that the Kuroda family wasn't opposing her, she couldn't continue her attack. And Yunxi pondered how to resolve this matter. Seeing his boss deep in thought, Lin Yu quietly and patiently awaited her new orders. And so, Yunxi sat there quietly, her head slightly lowered. Her beautiful eyes were fixed ahead, her right hand resting lightly on the desk, her slender fingers rhythmically tapping the surface. Time passed slowly, the office silent except for the soft tapping. After an unknown amount of time, Yunxi finally slowly raised her head, her gaze fixed on Lin Yu standing not far away, and softly said, Lin Yu, come here for a moment. Hearing his boss's summons, Lin Yu didn't dare delay, and quickly walked to Yunxi's side. He stood respectfully, quietly awaiting his boss's new instructions. Yunxi turned slightly to the side, gently bringing her lips close to Lin Yu's ear, and in a voice only the two of them could hear, she carefully and meticulously explained the plan she had just devised. As Yunxi spoke, Lin Yu's initially relaxed expression gradually turned serious. His brows furrowed slightly, his eyes fixed intently on a point in front of him, listening carefully to every word. Whenever Yunxi reached a crucial point, he would nod appropriately, indicating that he understood the key points and deeper meaning. Time passed slowly. Finally, Yunxi finished explaining the entire plan, and Lin Yu let out a long sigh of relief, though his expression remained serious. He straightened his back, looked firmly at Yunxi, and said solemnly, Don't worry, boss, I know what to do. After receiving Lin Yu's affirmative reply, Yunxi breathed a slight sigh of relief, but still added with concern, If anything unexpected happens during the execution of the plan, contact me immediately. Also, please remind everyone to pay close attention to their own safety and not to be careless. Yunxi's final words of advice warmed Lin Yu's heart, making him feel deeply comforted. Not long after Lin Yu left, Zhou Shiyan finished his busy day at work and returned home. Yunxi pulled him into the study and quietly told him her plan. Upon entering, before even taking off her coat, Yunxi eagerly grabbed his hand, quickly led him to the study, and gently closed the door behind her. Once they were seated at the desk, Yunxi lowered her voice and recounted the plan she had just told Lin Yu to Zhou Shiyan. Zhou Shiyan listened quietly, occasionally interrupting Yunxi to ask questions or offer his own opinions. After Yunxi finished speaking, Zhou Shiyan thought for a moment and then added two crucial details. And Yunxi carefully considered Zhou Shiyan's suggestions and found them very reasonable, so she adopted them without hesitation and immediately took out her phone to compose a text message and send it to Linyu. Soon, Linyu replied confirming receipt. Seeing this reply, and Yunxi temporarily put the matter aside. My wife is incredibly clever. She actually came up with such a brilliant plan. Zhou Shiyan's praise for Yunxi slipped out. This left Yunxi momentarily speechless. Seeing Yunxi's silence, Zhou Shiyan took his wife's hand and continued. What's wrong, wife? Nothing. I'm just speechless because of your praise. Zhou Shiyan smiled slightly, pulled Yunxi's hand to his lips, gently kissed it, and said, I was just stating a fact, not praising you. And Yunxi smiled. Brother Shiyan, I didn't expect you to be so sweet. Zhou Shiyan looked at his wife with doting eyes and replied earnestly, As long as it's you, I'll do anything you ask. Hearing this, Yunxi's smile widened, a hint of shyness lingering in it. As her due date approached, Zhou Shiyan became even more anxious and attentive. He prepared the maternity bag well in advance, complete with everything he needed. From Yunxi's changes of clothes to the baby's formula and diapers, he personally selected everything. He also contacted the head of Shilin Hospital in Beijing beforehand, discussing Yunxi's condition in detail with the doctors to ensure a smooth delivery. Although it was their family's private hospital, Zhou Shiyan still felt somewhat uneasy. The couple had discussed choosing Shilin Hospital for the delivery. Firstly, it was Yunxi's own hospital, and they knew the environment, equipment, and medical standards very well. Secondly, Shilin Hospital in Beijing was located in Haidian district, not far from their residence, Yunxi. Therefore, choosing to give birth here was very suitable in all aspects. Time passed day by day. During this time, Yunxi graduated with his bachelor's degree and entered his first year of graduate school. Meanwhile, as the start of school drew ever closer, Yunxi's belly swelled rapidly, like an inflating balloon, until her enormous belly obscured her toes. Now, even getting up and turning over became difficult. She had to get up several times every night to use the restroom. She herself was all right, as she could catch up on sleep during the day. But Zhou Shiyan was even more anxious than she was. No matter how quietly she moved, each time she got up at night, she would wake him. Only after helping her to the restroom could he finally fall asleep. And in such a short time, dark circles appeared under his eyes. Yunxi was starting to worry that if this continued, the man would suffer a nervous breakdown. Right now, she desperately wanted the little one in her belly to come out soon. As Yunxi's due date approached, Fang Mingxia arrived in Beijing early and moved into Yunshui residence. A couple of days later, Yunxi also packed her bags and moved into Yunshui residence. Meanwhile, Zhang Leining, the postpartum nanny carefully selected by Zhou Shiyan, had already arrived to help care for Yunxi, who was about to give birth. September 27th, the 6th day of the 8th lunar month, the sun shone gently on every corner of the city. Everything seemed so ordinary. However, for Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan, this was destined to be an extraordinary day. That day, Yunxi sat on the living room sofa, holding a parenting book. Her eyes occasionally glanced at the clear blue sky outside the window, and her hand frequently stroked her protruding pregnant belly, her heart filled with anticipation for the little life that was about to arrive. Suddenly, she felt a warm sensation below her. Could it be her water breaking? Ah! And Yunxi exclaimed. Zhou Shiyan, who was busy in the study, heard the sound, his heart clenched, and he almost jumped out instantly. Wife, what's wrong? And Yunxi clutched her belly, looking at him helplessly, and said, I think I'm going into labor. Seeing Yunxi's condition, his face instantly turned pale, his lips trembled slightly, but he tried to remain calm. Yunxi, don't be afraid, I'm here. Zhou Shiyan quickly went to Yunxi's side, carefully helping her sit up, his voice gentle but with an undeniable firmness. Meanwhile, Fang Mingxia and Yunxi arrived from different rooms. Seeing the situation, the two mothers exchanged a glance and quickly divided the tasks. Yunxi called Sheng Du to have the car parked at the door, then hurriedly grabbed the pre-prepared maternity bag. Fang Mingxia, meanwhile, kept comforting her daughter. Xiao, 11, don't panic, we're going to the hospital right away. Zhou Shiyan carried Yunxi and quickly walked towards the car that was already waiting at the door. Along the way, Zhou Shiyan held Yunxi's hand tightly, constantly saying encouraging words. Yunxi, hang in there, we'll be at the hospital soon. His eyes were full of heartache and anxiety, and fine beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. And Yunxi was pale with pain, biting her lip tightly, large beads of sweat rolling down her forehead. But she still managed a weak smile and said, I'm fine, don't worry. Finally, the car arrived at the entrance of Beijing Shilin Hospital. Medical staff, already notified, were waiting at the entrance with a stretcher. Zhou Shiyan and his two mothers followed anxiously behind, their eyes never leaving Yunxi. Family members, please wait outside. The delivery room door closed, trapping Yunxi inside and drawing Zhou Shiyan's attention away. The moment Yunxi was wheeled into the delivery room, the whole world seemed to shut out, leaving her alone to face the impending challenge. The delivery room reeked of disinfectant, and the harsh, white light mercilessly illuminated every corner, making her already tense mood even heavier. Yunxi wasn't initially afraid, but at this moment, she still felt quite nervous. She secretly slipped a chi-boosting pill into her mouth behind the doctor's back, only then feeling a slight return of energy. Outside the delivery room, Zhou Shiyan paced back and forth like a cat on a hot tin roof, each step feeling like an eternity. Time ticked by, each second feeling incredibly long for those waiting outside the delivery room. Zhou Shiyan's hands clenched and unclenched, his nails digging almost into his palms, leaving white marks, yet he seemed oblivious. The two mothers sat to the side, outwardly composed, but their slightly trembling hands betrayed their inner unease. Yunxi repeatedly made the sign of the cross on her chest, muttering incantations as if in prayer. Fang Mingxia stared intently at the delivery room door, her eyes filled with worry and concern. Inside the delivery room, Yunxi lay on the bed, wave after wave of contractions washing over her. Like surging waves, they engulfed her time and again. She bit her lip tightly, trying to distract herself, but the excruciating pain was relentless. Beads of sweat rolled down her forehead, dampening her hair at her temples, and her face was as pale as paper from the pain. Take a deep breath and relax, push. The midwife guided her gently yet firmly, her voice carrying a reassuring strength. Yunxi took a deep breath and, following the midwife's instructions, gripped the bed rails tightly with both hands, using all her strength. Each push felt like a life-or-death struggle against fate. Countless images flashed before her eyes. There were the moments she shared with Zhou Shiyan, the beautiful dreams they had made for their future. And now, these memories became her motivation to persevere. Push a little harder, the head is visible. The midwife's voice carried a hint of excitement, giving Yunxi immense encouragement. She gritted her teeth again, using her last ounce of strength, feeling as if her body was being torn apart. Just when she was about to give up, a clear, loud cry of a newborn baby rang out in the delivery room. At that moment, all the pain vanished, replaced by an indescribable joy and satisfaction. Congratulations, and it's a healthy baby. The midwife presented the swaddled infant to Yunxi with a smile. Looking at the wrinkled yet incredibly adorable little life before her, Yunxi's eyes welled with tears. This was the fruit of her and Zhou Shiyan's love, the hope for their future. She gently reached out and touched the baby's face, her heart overflowing with tenderness and love. Outside the delivery room, Zhou Shiyan heard the cry and abruptly stopped, his eyes instantly reddening. His lips trembled slightly, as if he wanted to say something, but he found his throat blocked, unable to utter a sound. Fang Mingxia and Yunxi also stood up excitedly, their eyes glistening with tears of joy. The delivery room door slowly opened, and Zhou Shiyan was the first to rush in. The doctor came out carrying a swaddled baby, smiling and saying, "Congratulations, it's a healthy baby boy weighing 6 pounds and 6 ounces. Zhou Shiyan didn't even have time to glance at his newborn baby. His heart and eyes were filled with the woman who had given birth to his child. He looked at Yunxi being wheeled out, his eyes filled with heartache and gratitude. He walked to the bedside, gently took Yunxi's hand, and placed a deep kiss on her forehead. "Wife, you've gone through so much." His voice was slightly choked, but incredibly firm. Yunxi looked at Zhou Shiyan, her lips curving upwards into a weak yet happy smile. "Our baby, he's healthy," she whispered, her voice filled with the joy of becoming a mother for the first time. At that moment, the whole world seemed to become incredibly beautiful. The birth of a new life was like a ray of light, illuminating their future path and making their love even more unbreakable. Yunxi entered the hospital in the morning and gave birth at noon. Upon receiving the news in the afternoon, Zhou Shenhua arrived at the hospital with Zhou Yanfeng and Shenhua Mei. "Grandpa, Grandma, what brings you here?" Zhou Shiyan greeted them with surprise as he ushered them into the ward. "My great-grandson has been born. How could I not come and see?" Zhou Yanfeng beamed, his eyes brimming with joy. This was the first child of their Zhou family generation. How could he not cherish it? His heart had been filled with excitement ever since his granddaughter-in-law became pregnant. As they spoke, the group entered the ward. "Grandpa, Grandma, Dad, you're here. Yunxi, you've worked so hard." From Grandpa Zhou and Grandma Zhou to Zhou Xinghua, everyone was incredibly pleased with Yunxi, their granddaughter-in-law. "Where's my great-grandson? Let me see him." Although Zhou Yanfeng's hair was already white, he was still very energetic, his eyes filled with eager anticipation for his great-grandson. Chen Huamei also looked very loving, holding a beautifully wrapped gift box. "Dad, don't get too excited. The baby is right here." Yunxi pointed to the crib beside her and said, "My dear great-grandson, great-grandpa and great-grandma have come to see you." Tears welled up in Zhou Yanfeng's eyes as he excitedly walked quickly to the crib and carefully looked at the baby. His eyes seemed to be looking at the most precious treasure in the world. Seeing this, Chen Huamei quickly stepped forward. She bent down slightly, gently stroking the baby's rosy cheeks with one hand. The soft touch melted her heart. She kept murmuring, "How handsome he is, just like our Ian when he was little." As she spoke, Chen Huamei handed the gift box to Zhou Shiyan, smiling as she said to Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan, "This is a gift for the baby. We wish him a safe and healthy life, and all the best." Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi quickly thanked her. Zhou Yanfeng cleared his throat and said proudly, "Ian, quickly open it and see. We've prepared a bank card for the child, containing the good wishes of his great-grandparents and a house in Beijing. You parents should keep these for him for now, and give them to him when he grows up." And Yunxi. Zhou Shiyan. Before they could speak, Zhou Shenhua also handed them a gift box. He gestured for Zhou Shiyan to open it, then said with a smile, "This is what your mother and I prepared. Please keep it for my grandson." Zhou Shiyan slowly opened the gift box as instructed, and instantly, the contents were revealed to everyone. Inside, neatly arranged, was a brand new bank card and a rather formal share transfer document. Before the couple could finish their surprise, and Jianhua, who had flown in from Yunzhou, arrived, bringing his newborn grandson a fund and 10 shops. And Yunxi glanced at her son, fast asleep in the crib beside her. The little guy, his fists clenched to his ears, was sleeping soundly. He was completely unaware of the substantial assets they now possessed. Her son, it could be said, had been firmly positioned at the starting line of life from the moment he was born. With such grandparents and parents like her and Zhou Shiyan, it would be difficult for him not to become a winner in life. The day after Yunxi gave birth, the maternity ward of Shilin Hospital was peaceful and serene. The warm sunlight, like golden threads, filtered through the slightly open gap in the pale blue curtains, gently falling down and covering the hospital bed wherein Yunxi lay like a thin veil. Her once rosy complexion was now slightly pale, but even so, it couldn't conceal the joy in her eyes as a first-time mother. The pristine white sheets lay neatly beneath her, and the 4 drips slowly infused her body, sustaining her postpartum weakness. "Yunxi, how are you feeling?" Zhou Shiyan gently sat beside the bed, his long, slender fingers softly brushing away the stray hairs from her forehead, his eyes filled with tenderness and concern. He wore a dark gray cashmere coat, his usually stern face now softened with affection. And Yunxi managed a faint smile, her voice weak yet brimming with happiness. "I'm fine. Where's the baby?" At that moment, Yunxi entered the room carrying an infant wrapped in swaddling clothes. "The baby's here." Yunxi's face beamed with happiness as she gently walked to the bedside and carefully placed the infant beside Yunxi. "Yunxi, thank you for everything." And Yunxi's gaze immediately fell on the tiny swaddled baby. When she saw the wrinkled yet incredibly adorable little face within, her eyes welled up with tears. Seeing this, Zhou Shiyan quickly reached out and gently took in Yunxi's hand, as if to convey his boundless strength and reassurance. "Shiyan, go and rest for a while. You've been keeping watch all night." Fang Mingxia looked at her son-in-law with some concern. "We're here." Zhou Shiyan shook his head. "Mom, I'm not tired." And Yunxi looked at her loving family members, her heart filled with deep emotion. She couldn't help but recall the moments she had endured during her pregnancy. During that time, Zhou Shiyan was incredibly caring and considerate towards her. No matter how busy he was with work, he would always find a way to accompany her to every prenatal checkup at the hospital. And after returning home, he would personally cook all sorts of nutritious and delicious dishes for her. Every night, Zhou Shiyan would gently sit by the bedside. His warm and strong hands would tenderly stroke Yunxi's increasingly pregnant belly. He would whisper softly to the baby in her womb, joyfully anticipating the early arrival of this new life. "Yunxi, what would you like to eat? Tell Mom, and I'll have the family chef prepare it." Fang Mingxia added softly, "You need to eat more nutritious food now." "I want to drink Mom's chicken soup," and Yunxi said, looking at Fang Mingxia with a coquettish tone. Fang Mingxia smiled and nodded. "Okay, Mom will go back and make it for you right away. I guarantee it will be fragrant and nutritious." Yunxi also said, "I'll go help too. I'm pretty good at making soup. I'm sure I can help Yunxi and the baby grow up healthy and plump." The ward was filled with warm laughter, and Yunxi looked at her busy and caring family, her heart filled with happiness. "Come here, Ian. Come and hold your son." Yunxi called to her son. Zhou Shiyan stood up and gently took the baby from Yunxi's arms. His movements were careful, as if he were holding the most precious treasure in the world. "Yunxi, this is our child." He looked at the child in his arms, then at Yunxi, his eyes shining with unwavering determination and a deep, boundless love. "I will definitely protect you and give you a warm and happy home." "Yes, I believe you." And Yunxi stayed in the hospital for 3 days before returning home to recuperate. Although it was her own hospital, and the environment was indeed quite nice, it was still not as convenient as being at home. As soon as the child was born, the matter of naming the child began to be discussed. After returning from the hospital, Zhou Yanfeng paced back and forth in the living room, muttering, "The Zhou family has a new baby. This is a big deal. We must choose a good name." Zhou Xinhua nodded in agreement, and so the father and son immediately got to work, each picking up a thick Xinhua dictionary and burying themselves in thought, diligently studying various words with auspicious meanings. When Zhou Shiyan returned to Yunxi residence with Yunxi and the baby, Zhou Yanfeng and Zhou Xinhua had already prepared a long list of names for them to choose from. Zhou Yanfeng spoke first. "I've thought of a few. Zhou Qiruiqi means to open, and Rui represents wisdom, implying this child will embark on a wise life and achieve extraordinary things. Then there's Zhou Yicheni, means carefree and unrestrained, and Chen suggests a transcendence of worldly concerns, hoping he'll live a free and easy life." Zhou Xinhua, not to be outdone, presented the names he had written. "I think Zhou Jincheng is good. Jincheng signifies a bright future, a path paved with flowers. And Zhou Yuxuan sounds spirited and energetic. He'll definitely grow up to be a dashing young man." Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi sat side by side on the spacious, comfortable sofa, their expressions focused and attentive as they listened quietly to Zhou Yanfeng's words. They occasionally exchanged glances, conveying unspoken thoughts only the other could understand. After Grandpa Zhou finished speaking and Yunxi softly asked, "Don't we need to arrange them according to seniority?" Zhou Yanfeng smiled and waved his hand, replying, "Times have changed. We don't necessarily have to follow generational naming conventions." Then what character should we use for this generation? The character Ming. If we're going by Mingzi, we've thought of a few good names. They're all here. You can take a look. Hearing this, Zhou Shiyan nodded slightly to indicate he understood, then reached for the slips of paper filled with names and examined them carefully. Seeing this, and Yunxi also eagerly stepped forward to look at the names listed on the slips of paper. After looking at the names, and Yunxi pondered for a moment and said, "Brother Shiyan, what do you think of the name Mingchen?" Ming represents uprightness and understanding, and Chen means precious treasure. Our child is our most precious treasure. Upon hearing this, a glint flashed in Zhou Shiyan's eyes. He couldn't help but murmur the three characters Zhou Mingchen repeatedly. With each recitation, his affection for the name grew stronger. Finally, he beamed with joy, praising, "This name is wonderful. It's meaningful, easy to pronounce, and memorable." The two exchanged a knowing smile, their hearts in agreement, and reached a consensus on the child's name. When they told Zhou Yanfeng and Zhou Xinghua the name Zhou Mingchen, the elders pondered it carefully before beaming with satisfaction. Zhou Yanfeng nodded in praise. "A good name, a wonderful name. This child will surely live up to his name, upright and honorable, becoming the pride of our Zhou family." Zhou Xinghua also smiled and said, "This name is brilliant. It encapsulates our expectations for his character and carries a sense of preciousness. It couldn't be more fitting." From that moment on, the name Zhou Mingchen officially became the identifier of this little life. And Yunxi returned home from the hospital and began her postpartum confinement period. Besides the postpartum nanny Zhang Lanying, Fang Mingxia and Yunshu also planned to stay in Yunshui until Yunxi finished her confinement. And Yunxi lay on the soft bed in her bedroom. Warm sunlight filtered through the thin curtains, casting dappled shadows and adding warmth to the cozy little space. Although her face was still a little pale, her eyes were full of the joy and tenderness of becoming a new mother, her gaze fixed on her sleeping baby in the crib beside her. "Yunxi, come. Drink this bowl of chicken soup while it's hot." Yunshu carried the steaming chicken soup, her steps light and gentle as she entered the room, a kind smile on her face. "This is a free-range chicken specially delivered from the farm. It was just slaughtered today, so it's incredibly fresh. It's been stewed for several hours. It'll help with lactation and is good for your health." And Yunxi quickly sat up, took the chicken soup, and said gratefully, "Mom, thank you so much for all this so early in the morning." "Yunxi, what are you saying? This is what I should do. You're in your postpartum period now, so you need to take good care of yourself and not develop any health problems." Yunshu sat on the edge of the bed, gently patting Yunshi's hand, her eyes full of concern. Just then, Fang Mingxia pushed open the door, carrying a newly made baby garment. "Yunxi, look, this is a new outfit your grandma made for the baby. Isn't it pretty?" And Yunxi looked at the delicately embroidered little clothes in her mother's hands, her eyes slightly reddening. Grandma's craftsmanship is still so good. The baby will definitely look adorable in it. "Mom, tell Grandma not to make any more. This embroidery is really hard on her eyes." Fang Mingxia glared at her daughter and said, "How could I not tell her? She's my own mother." She walked to the crib and gently stroked the baby's face. "My little grandson, you're growing up so fast." Just then, the baby in the crib stirred slightly and made a few soft whimpering sounds. Fang Mingxia quickly picked up the child and handed him to Yunxi. And Yunxi gently picked up the baby and soothed him tenderly. "Baby, be good. Mommy's here." Surprisingly, the baby seemed to understand his mother's words, and his previously restless little body instantly quieted down. He stared at Yunxi with his big, round eyes, a sweet smile playing on his lips, as if he were smiling at his mother. Watching this, Fang Mingxia couldn't help but sigh. This child is so sensible. He knows how to care for his mother. Indeed, our baby is bound to be a good boy. With the help of the postpartum nanny and family, and Yunxi had an incredibly easy postpartum period. By the end of her confinement, she was radiant and full of vitality. No one could tell she had just given birth. The postpartum period was over, but for Yunxi, it wasn't quite a liberation yet. Because she was breastfeeding, and Yunxi was completely tied to her son. Wherever she went, she had to take him with her. This meant that Yunxi spent most of her time at home. Even when subordinates came to report, she tried to arrange for them to come to her home or use video conferencing. Although she wasn't entirely free, watching her child grow day by day, Yunxi felt something called happiness steadily growing within her. "Brother Shiryan, look at our son. He's so cute." Zhou Shiryan sat down next to Yunxi upon hearing this, but instead of focusing on their son, he looked at Yunxi without saying a word. Yunxi was somewhat bewildered by Zhou Shiryan's strange behavior, a hint of doubt rising in her heart. She frowned slightly and cautiously asked in a soft voice, "Brother Shiryan, what's wrong?" Zhou Shiryan remained silent, only tightly pursing his lips. After a long while, he suddenly uttered a domineering yet slightly childish statement. "Call me husband, Yunxi. Has this guy taken the wrong medicine today, or did someone upset him? Seriously, who would dare to upset him?" Despite her many questions, seeing Zhou Shiryan's serious expression, Yunxi obediently nodded and softly asked, "Honey, what's wrong?" Zhou Shiryan took their son from Yunxi's arms and placed him in the crib beside her, then without hesitation, pulled Yunxi tightly into his embrace. His arms were as strong as iron clamps, making it almost impossible for Yunxi to break free. And so, Zhou Shiryan sat there quietly, holding Yunxi, remaining silent and not saying another word. At this moment, Yunxi was truly bewildered, not knowing what was going on. "Wife, since we had our son, you haven't cared about me at all." Finally, after a long silence, Zhou Shiryan spoke, his voice tinged with grievance. Yunxi was filled with questions. How could she not care about him? She admitted that the birth of their son had indeed taken up most of her energy, but she didn't believe her care for Zhou Shiryan had diminished. Besides, they used to be busy with their own things. Compared to before, she actually spends more time with him now. "How old are you? How can you be jealous of your son?" Yunxi's words were filled with helplessness and amusement, the sound seeming to be squeezed out from between her teeth. Looking at the man before her, usually as steady as a mountain, now acting like a child throwing a tantrum, a ripple of emotion stirred within her. "Yunxi, I'm the one you love most. You should look at me more from now on." Zhou Shiryan held Yunxi's hand tightly, gently, but firmly guiding her head to rest on his broad shoulder. His tone was domineering and unquestionable, as if declaring his ownership of his wife to the world. "Yunxi, what's going on? How did her wise and powerful husband suddenly become like this?" Yunxi was truly unable to accept this. However, after many years of marriage, Yunxi knew Zhou Shiryan's temperament well. She composed herself, deciding to stabilize the situation first, and then find an opportunity to have a proper talk with him. Thinking this, Yunxi put on a gentle and charming smile and said coquettishly, "Brother Shiryan, the baby is still young, so I inevitably pay a little more attention to him. Please don't be angry, okay?" However, Zhou Shiryan didn't seem moved by Yunxi's sweet words. He remained expressionless, sitting there motionless, like a statue. Seeing that Zhou Shiryan was unmoved, Yunxi continued, "In my heart, the person I love most will always be you." As she said this, Yunxi gazed deeply into Zhou Shiryan's eyes, trying to convey the true feelings deep within her heart through her gaze. Finally, Zhou Shiryan's tense face relaxed slightly, and a barely perceptible light flickered in his eyes. Yunxi keenly caught this subtle change and immediately realized that her words had worked. It seemed she wouldn't be able to appease this jealous man without paying a price today. So, she struck while the iron was hot, determined to add fuel to the fire and completely defuse this minor family storm. Yunxi stood up and sat on Zhou Shiryan's lap, placing her hands on his shoulders and gazing at him with affectionate eyes. "Husband, The sweet, coquettish call from Yunxi's cherry-like lips seemed to strike Zhou Shiyan like an electric current, causing his body to tremble violently. Yunxi, pressed tightly against the man, keenly sensed this subtle change and couldn't help but feel a secret delight. "Husband," Yunxi called softly again, her voice becoming increasingly melodious and alluring, like a captivating melody. "Husband, please don't be angry anymore, okay?" She shook the man's arm pleadingly, her eyes filled with entreaty. "You're the most important person in my heart. Everyone else has to step aside." She leaned down and kissed the man's lips. In an instant, a jolt of electricity coursed through their bodies. Zhou Shiyan's large hand, which had been resting on Yunxi's waist, involuntarily tightened, as if he wanted to meld the woman in his arms into his own body. At the same time, his breathing became heavy, like a beast ignited by the flames of desire. Yunxi didn't stop there. While passionately kissing Zhou Shiyan, she subtly slid her hands down his clothes, wantonly caressing his muscular body. Each touch was like a spark, igniting the burning desire deep within the man's heart. As Yunxi's actions became bolder, Zhou Shiyan's breathing became increasingly rapid, finally unable to suppress his impulses any longer. He suddenly stood up and swept Yunxi into his arms. "Wife, this time you took the initiative." With these suggestive words, Zhou Shiyan quickened his pace, heading towards the elevator. Yunxi was shocked. This, he'd gone too far. Yunxi blushed deeply and said coquettishly, "Honey, the baby's still there." Zhou Shiyan's lips curled into a wicked smile as he softly replied, "Don't worry. The nanny is taking care of her." Then, "Sure,
don't speak yet."
Yunxi fell silent and was carried into the elevator by Zhou Shiyan. At this moment, Yunxi felt a little uneasy. She seemed to have accidentally flirted with this man. With a ding, the elevator took them directly to the 3rd floor. Zhou Shiyan, carrying her with ease, strode out of the elevator towards the master bedroom. When Zhou Shiyan ruthlessly tossed Yunxi onto the soft bed, she immediately sensed something was wrong. Before she could react, she felt a weight on her as Zhou Shiyan leaned over and pressed down on top of her. At this moment, Zhou Shiyan resembled a ravenous beast, his eyes gleaming with burning desire. His long, slender, white hand with distinct knuckles gently picked up a strand of Yunxi's hair from beside her pillow, slowly turning and playing with it as if it were a precious work of art. "Now you know fear?" Zhou Shiyan's deep voice sounded in Yunxi's ear, tinged with a hint of mockery and teasing. Yunxi subconsciously shook her head. Looking at the charming little woman before him, Zhou Shiyan could no longer suppress the surging emotions within him. He declared domineeringly, "Wife, tonight is mine." Before he finished speaking, he eagerly kissed Yunxi's luscious lips. "Husband, Yunxi tried to say something, but all her words were drowned out by Zhou Shiyan's passionate kiss. Tonight, Zhou Shiyan was more forceful and passionate than ever before. Perhaps because he hadn't been so intimate with his beloved for so long, this man had accumulated all his strength, and now he was eager to release it all on Yunxi at once. Before long, Yunxi was drawn into this intense lovemaking. The next day, when Yunxi woke up, it was already broad daylight. But the master bedroom where she was still incredibly dark because of the blackout curtains. Yunxi sat up in bed, rubbing her aching lower back, and silently swallowed a nourishing pill. Life after having a child is definitely different from before, especially when the child is still a breastfed baby. Before little Zhou Mingchen turned 1, Yunxi was practically inseparable from him. It wasn't until he was weaned at 1 that Yunxi began to have time for her own affairs. As the eldest grandson of the Zhou family, Zhou Mingchen's first birthday banquet was personally organized by Grandpa Zhou and Grandma Zhou at the Zhou family's old mansion. Although it was called a first birthday banquet, it didn't really have much to do with the child. The prominent figures from the political and business circles who attended weren't there for this little bean sprout. But regardless, the little guy's first birthday banquet was still quite grand. Little Zhou Mingchen was quite cute when he was young. But ever since he started kindergarten at 3, he started giving Yunxi headaches. It wasn't that he was too naughty or mischievous. On the contrary, Yunxi was troubled by her son's unusual quietness. Other children were lively and adorable, but her son seemed prematurely mature, as if his personality had developed too quickly. He always appeared aloof and taciturn, showing no interest in playing with other children his age. When facing other kindergarten children, he always gave them a look that said, "You're all too childish." As a result, after 3 months of kindergarten, he hadn't made a single friend. And Yunxi was starting to worry about her son's mental and physical well-being. When Zhou Mingchen once again coldly rejected an invitation from a classmate, and Yunxi decided to have a heart-to-heart talk with her son. "Sweetie, can you tell mommy why you don't want to play with the other kindergarten children?" And Yunxi carefully observed her son's expression, but found that his expression didn't change at all. He looked at his mother seriously for a moment, then replied, "They're all so childish. Playing with them is a waste of time, a waste of life." And Yunxi, "Listen to this. Is this something a 3-year-old should say?" And Yunxi suppressed her emotions and patiently said, "Then, baby, don't you need to make friends? Won't you get bored staying there alone all the time?" "Mommy, I'm studying. I'm not bored." The little guy said this with a cool expression. He looked like a miniature version of Zhou Shiyan. "Sweetie, you're still young. We're not in a rush to learn so much. You can enjoy your happy childhood first." "Mommy," and Yunxi was interrupted by her son before she could finish speaking, "I don't need that kind of childhood. I like learning, and I enjoy the process of learning." And Yunxi, what kind of amazing son is this? He's only 3 years old. Seeing her son only thinking about studying all day, and Yunxi sometimes felt sorry for him. Many times, she wondered if there was something wrong with the intelligence-enhancing pills she gave her son. How come Yunza was perfectly normal after taking them as a child? How come her son is completely different? She even suspected that her son might have been reincarnated with his memories intact. But after many tests, she ruled out that possibility. One thing is certain, her son's intelligence is exceptionally high. At just over 3 years old, not yet 4, he already recognizes quite a few characters. He can effortlessly recall all the Chinese and math knowledge up to the 3rd grade level. He's even learned to use a dictionary, looking things up while reading many books. In a way, this kid is practically gifted. Seeing that her son couldn't get along with the other children at kindergarten, and Yunxi agreed when he suggested not going. "Honey, do you think our son is a bit too precocious?" Zhou Shiyan glanced at her and replied casually, "No, I think he's quite normal." "Then don't you think it's a bit bad that he doesn't interact with children his own age?" "I think it's fine. I was pretty much the same way when I was little." And Yunxi, "Okay, case solved." Her son took after his father. Since his father grew up this way, it's probably safe for his son to grow up the same way, right? Seeing the worry still on Yunxi's face, Zhou Shiyan put his arm around her shoulder and comforted her. "Yunxi, you have to understand, some people are destined to be different from ordinary people from birth." And Yunxi was stunned by these words. After a long while, she shook her head, rubbing her forehead, and smiled helplessly. "I was too focused on that, always thinking about giving the baby a carefree childhood, neglecting other things." Just as Zhou Shiyan said, some people are destined from birth to never live an ordinary life. All along, she had been too stubborn and hadn't understood this. From then on, Yunxi stopped interfering too much in her son's life and growth. As long as he was happy, the couple would generally fulfill their son's wishes. When Zhou Mingchen was 5, he asked to have someone come to his home to teach him, and they agreed. When he was 6, Zhou Mingchen said he wanted to start learning martial arts, and they agreed again. When he was 9, Zhou Mingchen started learning high school level material, and Yunxi, after a little consideration, agreed again. When Zhou Mingchen was 10, Yunxi was 37, and Zhou Shiyan was 42. That year, she had successfully leveled up her system to level 20. On Yunxi's system panel, her wealth and career points had long since surpassed 100, even reaching over 150. According to the system standards, she was not just the world's richest person in name, but had truly become the world's richest person in reality. Even those reclusive families with centuries of history didn't possess as much wealth as she did. At the same time, her reputation points had also increased significantly over the years. In 2028, little Zhou Mingchen was only 3 years old. That year, the 34th Summer Olympic Games were held in Los Angeles. And Yunxi, who was semi-retired, originally didn't need to participate in this Olympics. However, after analysis, the team discovered that the Chinese shooting team's chances of winning gold in the women's trap and women's 25-meter pistol events were slim. Not only gold, but even the chances of winning a silver medal were extremely slim. Therefore, the team decided to invite in Yunxi to participate in these two events. For plot purposes, not considering whether it's realistically feasible, and Yunxi visited the shooting team to learn about the situation and ultimately decided to participate. Being able to win such honor for the country once again would be a perfect ending to her athletic career. And Yunxi regrouped and once again stepped onto the Olympic stage. This was her final competition, holding profound significance for Yunxi. Facing formidable opponents, she showed no fear and never underestimated them. Regardless, she gave her all in every match, performing at her best. The final result, naturally, was victory in every competition, winning 2 more gold medals at this Olympics. Up to this point, Yunxi's shooting career can be described as incredibly brilliant. Countless national, Asian, and world championships, 10 Olympic gold medals, a true shooting grand slam. Not to mention anything else, those 10 Olympic gold medals alone are enough to make countless athletes envious. She created records in the history of Chinese shooting, and she created her own records. As news spread that Yunxi had won 2 more Olympic gold medals, the level of attention she received reached its peak once again. As a world champion, she also possessed the status of the world's richest person. Add to that the Yunnan Research Institute's frequent releases of scientific research achievements that put China at the forefront of the world. The entire nation and even the world was watching Yunxi's every move. For Yunxi, increased reputation meant the ability to exchange for more technical data. And the release of more technological achievements further enhanced Yunxi's fame and influence. It was a virtuous cycle. In the year Zhou Mingchen turned 10, Yunxi received a special contribution award from the state. At the same time, she also became a recipient of the Medal of the Republic of China, awarded for her great contributions to China's economy and technology over the years. From age 18 to 37, a little over a decade, neither long nor short. Enough time for Yunxi, with her multiple advantages, to leverage the power of the system to achieve world-leading achievements in many areas of Chinese technology. Especially after solving the problems of lithography machines and chips, the development of Chinese technology has been like a rocket, sprinting forward. Many key technologies that were previously constrained by Western countries have been broken through. This Eastern dragon has now fully unsheathed its sword to the world. Of course, Yunxi played an extremely important role in this. Besides the technology sector, the Yunnan Research Institute has also achieved remarkable results in the pharmaceutical sector. With the continuous support of Yunxi's technical resources and talent, several diseases that were once considered incurable and baffling to countless medical experts have now been successfully treated and cured. This breakthrough has greatly enhanced the reputation of Yunxi's Shilin Hospital, leading to its continuous market expansion. It not only has branches in major cities across China, but has also expanded into international markets. Backed by Yunxi's treatment and pharmaceutical technologies, Shilin Hospital has consistently been at the forefront of global medicine in recent years. In addition, several new drugs meticulously developed by the Yunnan Research Institute and manufactured by Yunxi Pharmaceutical have been launched on the market. These drugs attracted widespread attention upon their release. Their significant efficacy and lack of side effects quickly won over consumers, allowing them to stand out in the fiercely competitive pharmaceutical market. Meanwhile, Yunxi's Jinxiu Hotel Group has also achieved remarkable success. Through years of unremitting efforts and pioneering innovation, it has grown into a leading global chain hotel giant. The high-quality service and comfortable environment offered by Jinxiu Hotel are loved and sought after by travelers worldwide. It is particularly worth mentioning that with the continuous enhancement of its technological strength, China's lithography machine technology has now achieved a qualitative leap, reaching an astonishing precision level of 0.5 nanometers. Therefore, on today's rapidly changing global technological stage, China has rightfully become the undisputed benchmark and leading power in the field of lithography machines and chip manufacturing. Whether in technological research and development or industrial application, China demonstrates strong competitiveness and leadership, attracting the world's attention. When Zhou Mingchen was 12 years old, Zhou Shenghua, already in his 70s, finally ushered in his formal retirement. This elderly man, who had weathered many storms and personally built a substantial family fortune, unhesitatingly entrusted the Zhou family's vast business empire to Yunxi and her husband. The whole family had agreed that, aside from the portion belonging to the military and the state, which they would only temporarily manage, the rest of the assets would be placed under the names of Yunxi and Zhou Mingchen. This decision was met with complete acceptance from the Zhou family, including the highly respected patriarch and matriarch. The Zhou family's foundation lay in the military. They weren't particularly concerned with the business sphere. Furthermore, they trusted Yunxi completely, given her competence and character. They felt at ease entrusting these worldly possessions to her. Time passed, and Patriarch Zhou Yanfeng, with his tenacious vitality, lived to the ripe old age of 98 before passing away. Tragically, in the same year of his death, Patriarch Zhou Huamei also passed away. The elderly members of the family, including Yunxi's grandparents and maternal grandparents, all lived to a ripe old age, reaching their 90s, thanks to Yunxi's secret use of various elixirs and tonics. Especially her maternal grandfather, Fang Huaxing, who was in relatively good health, was remarkably vigorous and radiant, passing away at the age of 106. This year was 2048. When Fang Huaxing, a man with 5 generations living under one roof, passed away, he was surrounded by his children and grandchildren, a truly joyous occasion. The company's meticulously planned epic film, intended as a tribute to the 100th anniversary of the founding of the People's Republic of China, is currently in full swing with preparations for filming. Given the significant meaning and far-reaching impact of this film, Yunxi is personally involved in every detail, from script polishing and casting to on-set filming and post-production. She's been quite busy lately. At 50 years old, Yunxi is remarkably well-preserved, with an elegant figure, making it seem as if time has been incredibly kind to her. At 50, she looks like she's in her 30s. After finishing her meeting, Yunxi walked out of the conference room and saw Zhou Shiyan, who had come to pick her up. Everyone says Yunxi is remarkably youthful, but Zhou Shiyan is no less so. At 55 years old, he looked like he was in his 40s, handsome and noble, with a tall and well-proportioned figure. He didn't look old at all. Instead, he exuded the charm of a mature man refined by time. Seeing Yunxi appear, Zhou Shiyan quickly stood up to greet her and softly asked, "Finished with your work?" Yunxi nodded slightly and replied, "Yes." Hearing this, Zhou Shiyan naturally took her hand and said slowly in his deep, magnetic voice, "Let's go home." All eyes were on the perfect couple. Hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder, they walked away with light and harmonious steps. Their figures, bathed in sunlight, looked so beautiful, like a beautiful and moving painting. Many people couldn't help but cast envious glances and whisper among themselves, "Our boss is still as charming as ever." Indeed, she seems to get more and more attractive with age. But speaking of which, her husband is just as handsome. Look how well matched they are. A perfect couple, a match made in heaven. The key is that after all these years, their relationship is still so strong. It's truly enviable. Sigh. I feel like I'm starting to believe in love again. Today is Zhou Mingchen's doctoral graduation ceremony, and Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan both attended. Over the years, the couple didn't have a second child. As their only child, Zhou Mingchen has always received a lot of attention from Yunxi. From the moment he was born to his current academic success, every step of his growth has been inseparable from his mother's meticulous care and guidance. Therefore, and Yunxi felt she absolutely had to be there in person for her son's doctoral graduation ceremony, to witness him put on his doctoral cap and receive his diploma. Zhou Mingchen, possessing exceptional intelligence from a young age, had virtually no experience of school life before university. He received regular tutoring from teachers in various fields at his home, only needing to attend classes at school for exams. It wasn't until he was 16 and passed the college entrance examination that Zhou Mingchen began attending regular classes. It was initially thought that his aloof personality might hinder his ability to thrive in a group setting. Who knew this guy would quickly gain the admiration of his classmates as a top student and soon become friends with the boys in his dorm. Because of his exceptional grades and young age, his classmates generally took good care of him. And Yunxi, she never expected things to turn out this way. This way, she wouldn't have to worry about whether her son could adapt to school life. As it turned out, her worries were completely unnecessary. On graduation day, the sun shone brightly and a gentle breeze blew. The vast school auditorium was packed, bustling with activity. And Yunxi and her husband sat quietly in the audience, their eyes fixed on the spirited, radiant figure on the stage. Their son stood tall and straight before the podium, delivering his graduation speech fluently and eloquently without needing a script. His words were vivid, engaging, clearly structured, and highly persuasive, drawing thunderous applause from the audience. Looking at their outstanding son, the couple felt a surge of pride and joy. Zhou Mingchen was 23 years old this year, in the prime of his youth. Tall and slender, handsome and dashing, his striking features were a spitting image of his father, Zhou Shiyan, in his youth. Especially his deep, bright eyes, which seemed to hold boundless wisdom and strength. And Yunxi turned to look at her husband, Zhou Shiyan, beside her. Their eyes met, and they understood each other perfectly. Then, they both smiled with satisfaction, a smile as warm as the spring sun. "Dad, Mom." After finishing his speech, Zhou Mingchen hurried to his parents' side. His face was expressionless, but Yunxi could still sense his happiness in his eyes. "Xiao Chun, you spoke really well," and Yunxi praised him generously. Hearing his mother's praise, Zhou Mingchen felt a little uncomfortable. For years, he still hadn't gotten used to his mother's constant praise. So, he changed the subject, saying, "I'm going to take photos with my classmates later. Mom and Dad, why don't you come along?" And Yunxi smiled gently and readily agreed. Okay. When the family arrived at the photo location, many of their fellow doctoral graduates had already gathered. Seeing Zhou Mingchen arrive with his parents, many classmates who were meeting his parents for the first time widened their eyes in surprise. We classmates have been classmates for so many years and never knew Mingchen had such an impressive family background," one classmate exclaimed in astonishment. Zhou Mingchen's roommate nudged him exaggeratedly with his elbow, chuckling. "Wow, Mingchen, you hit it well. I only found out today that you're actually the young master of the richest family." They always saw Zhou Mingchen dressed and ate very well, knowing his family was wealthy. His family's chauffeur frequently picked him up in luxury cars. In everyone's minds, Zhou Mingchen was a local rich young master from Beijing. But they never imagined he was this wealthy and powerful. Zhou Mingchen. His gaze towards his roommate was somewhat indescribable. He hadn't intentionally hidden anything, but he couldn't exactly go around telling everyone, "I'm so-and-so's young master." Besides, for him, family background wasn't something to brag about. What truly mattered was realizing his value through his own efforts. It has to be said, this kid has really been very well educated. His roommates, understanding his expression, coughed awkwardly a couple of times and then changed the subject. "Xiao Chun, do you have something to do? Want to go home together?" "Mom, our dorm is having a get-together. I'll go back later." "Okay, your dad and I will be going now. Have fun." "Goodbye, Mom and Dad." "Goodbye, Uncle and Aunt." After the two left, Gu Mingchen's roommate said, "Mingchen, your parents look so young. It's almost hard to call them uncle and aunt. Are you sure they're not your brother and sister?" Gu Mingchen glanced at him and said, "They're both over 50. They just take good care of themselves, so they look younger." Meanwhile, the two who had already left didn't go straight home. Instead, they strolled hand in hand through the campus. This was the university, where her son was pursuing his bachelor's, master's, and doctoral degrees, and also her and Zhou Shiyan's alma mater. She always felt a certain emotional connection to this place. "Shiyan, time flies. Our son is so grown up already." And Yunxi said softly, filled with emotion. "Yes, let him go out and explore on his own from now on. We'll travel together." As he spoke, he tightened his grip on his wife's hand, his eyes filled with doting affection. Now that their son was grown, Zhou Shiyan felt he could hand over the company to him and take his wife on a world tour. And Yunxi stopped, looking at the earnest expression in Zhou Shiyan's eyes, and didn't say anything to spoil the mood. So, she smiled and nodded, softly saying, "Okay, let's go out and travel together." Zhou Shiyan squeezed her hand, whispering, "Yunxi, we will continue to be happy in this life, the next life, and the life after that. We will be together, okay?" From the first time he saw her at home, this woman had been like a dazzling light, entering her heart and his soul. That feeling was like a flower quietly blooming in spring, taking root and sprouting without anyone knowing when or where, and growing ever more luxuriant with the passage of time. Love arises without warning and deepens with each passing moment. Time flies, and so many years of married life haven't diminished his feelings for her. Instead, like fine wine, they've become richer and more intense with time. He thought that as long as it was in Yunxi, no matter how long they were together, he would never tire of her. This was his deepest, most genuine thought and most profound feeling. And Yunxi hadn't expected this man to suddenly say such a thing. She paused slightly, then replied, "Okay," and Yunxi's voice was very soft, instantly disappearing into the cool breeze blowing across the lake. However, in Zhou Shiyan's ears, her voice was incredibly clear and firm. It made his heart pound like it had when they first fell in love. He felt that fluttering heart feeling all over again. At that moment, sunlight filtered through the dense foliage on both sides of the path, turning into dappled golden spots that poured down in a cascading, abundant stream. A dreamlike, vibrant tapestry intertwined across their bodies. This was their moment, their story. The end of this life might be the beginning of the next. This story ends, but new stories will continue. However, at this moment, they only wanted to savor this tender moment. End of main text. After graduating with his doctorate, Zhou Mingchen went directly to work at the Yunnan Research Institute, a place he knew intimately. Having chosen physics as his undergraduate major, he had been frequenting the various research labs and laboratories at the Yunnan Institute since high school. After entering university, his mother and Yunxi personally funded his research projects, and he even had his own private laboratory at the institute. With Yunxi's full support providing funding, equipment, and manpower, Zhou Mingchen completed the project in just 1 year. After discussions, they sold the research results to a technology company. Successfully obtaining 30 million yuan, he was able to launch his next project. Since the success of his first project, Zhou Mingchen seemed to have unlocked a meteoric rise. One research project after another took root under his guidance, rapidly achieving breakthroughs. In this process, he also began to mature. This growth wasn't just in terms of knowledge and research ability, but more importantly, in his personal vision, perspective, and interpersonal skills. Seeing her son's interest in scientific research, and Yunxi would occasionally give him materials. She guided him step by step towards higher and farther goals. At the same time, Yunxi also tried to get him to learn management. She even had director Xian Yulin personally mentor him, letting him learn the management and operation of a research institute. And Yunxi also thought that if he truly focused on this field, it wouldn't be a bad idea to hand over the Yunnan Research Institute to him in the future. Zhou Mingchen was extremely intelligent. He seemed to realize his mother's thoughts and didn't resist them much. After all, this was his favorite field. He knew very well that the resources of the Yunnan Research Institute could support him to go further in the field of scientific research. His mother had paved the way for him. The rest was up to him. Of course, Zhou Mingchen did not disappoint in Yunxi. His professional level and research ability were even better than many researchers summoned by system task cards. After he officially became the project leader and joined the system's team section, the system surprisingly gave him a perfect score of 100. And Yunxi exclaimed in surprise. This son definitely took after his father. He was one of only 2 people to achieve a perfect score of 100 in the system. In terms of career, Zhou Mingchen hadn't caused Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi any worry. It was his love life that was causing Yunxi considerable anxiety. Not for any other reason than that her son was so focused on his project research that even at 30, he hadn't had a single girlfriend or had a single relationship. Keep in mind, his father, Zhou Shiyan, had already been married for 3 years when he turned 30. But this guy, let alone dating, didn't even have a single female friend with any significant rapport. Even though Yunxi considered herself an open-minded parent, she couldn't help but feel worried. She didn't want to put pressure on her son and never urged him to do anything, but she just couldn't shake off her worries. What Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi never expected was that on National Day of the year Zhou Mingchen turned 30, Zhou Mingchen brought a girl directly to them and announced his marriage. Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi, Zhou Shimhua and Yunxi, the usually quiet Zhou Mingchen, now making a dramatic entrance, completely ignored his parents' and grandparents' shock and introduced his fiancée to them. Grandpa and Grandma, Mom and Dad, this is my girlfriend, and also my fiancé Mingjio. And Yunxi suppressed her shock and maintained a kind smile, saying, Mingyao, right? It's all Xiaochen's fault. Why didn't he bring such a good girlfriend home sooner? Look how scared his grandparents are. Auntie, hello. It's Mingyao's fault. She didn't present the engagement letter beforehand. Engaging letter? So formal? It seems this girl's family isn't simple. How can I blame you? It's good that you don't blame Xiaochen for being inconsiderate. Throughout the conversation, Mingyao remained gentle and polite, knowing her place. Her demeanor and speech clearly showed she had received excellent manners. And Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan breathed a sigh of relief upon seeing her. Although this daughter-in-law's arrival was somewhat sudden, at least the final outcome was good. This was a happy ending for everyone. Through conversation, Yunxi learned that Mingyao was 24 years old, a Chinese-American who had come to China to trace her roots and complete her studies. Their meeting was purely coincidental. Zhou Mingchen had a project with the university that required him to personally return to the school to coordinate some matters. Upon returning, he was dragged by a classmate who was teaching at the university to attend a gathering of some classmates. Meanwhile, Mingyao was also having dinner with some friends. The 2 private rooms happened to be next to each other. Zhou Mingchen drank a little and went to the restroom. Just as he was returning to his room, he was spotted by a woman who wanted to marry a wealthy man. The woman, wearing high heels and a miniskirt, carrying a glass of wine, tried to bump into Zhou Mingchen. The bodyguards hidden nearby were about to intervene when they saw Zhou Mingchen nimbly dodge to the side. The unexpected happened at that moment. Zhou Mingchen dodged the woman's attack, but bumped into Mingyao, who had just opened the door to the private room. And that's how the 2 met. And Yunxi didn't know the specifics of how the 2 got along, but she did know that 3 months later, her son brought the girl to her and proposed marriage. And Yunxi seemed to like the girl and started chatting with her. Through conversation, Yunxi learned that Ming Yao's family was also in business. She had an older brother, and she was the youngest child. Wait a minute. An American Chinese and surnamed Ming? And Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan exchanged a glance, thinking to themselves, could it be such a coincidence? Ming Yao, if I may be so bold, may I ask who Ming Wenjing is to you? And Yunxi asked tentatively. Upon hearing this, Ming Yao's face showed surprise, and she stared directly at Yunxi, saying, Ming Wenjing is my grandfather. Auntie, you know him? Are you Ming Jiaxing's daughter? Ming Yao nodded. At this moment, Yunxi couldn't help but sigh. I didn't expect that. Seeing Ming Yao's slightly nervous expression, Yunxi quickly explained, don't be nervous. Our family actually has some business dealings with your Ming family. Hearing this, Ming Yao's tense nerves relaxed slightly. I lived with my maternal grandparents when I was little and only returned to the Ming family when I was 12. I didn't know about this. And Yunxi didn't press the matter as to why the little girl wasn't living at her own home, but instead at her grandparents' house. She simply chatted with her, trying to learn more about her. So many years had passed. Old Master Ming Fan had passed away, and even Ming Wenjing had retired, handing over the position of family head to his son, Ming Jiaxing. As a business partner, and Yunxi naturally knew these basic facts. She hadn't expected that Ming Jiaxing would have such a young daughter. Even more unexpected was that this youngest daughter of the Ming family was about to become her daughter-in-law. Truly, life is unpredictable. While the two ladies chatted, Zhou Shiyan seized a moment to confirm with his son. "Are you sure it's her?" Zhou Mingchen nodded firmly, replying, "Absolutely sure." Seeing his son's resolute attitude, Zhou Shiyan said solemnly, "Marriage is not a game. Once you've made up your mind, it's for life." Zhou Mingchen replied earnestly, "Dad, don't worry, I understand all of this." Having understood his son's true feelings, Zhou Shiyan said no more. After all, he knew his son better than anyone. He was always steady and reliable and would never treat matters of the heart lightly. Besides, Zhou Shiyan didn't see anything wrong with getting married after knowing each other for only 3 months. If his future wife hadn't been so young back then, he would have wanted to get married long ago and wouldn't have had such a long courtship. Therefore, he completely understood and supported his son's current choice. Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi quickly accepted the fact that their son was getting married. But on the other side of the ocean, the news caused an uproar at the Ming family's home. What? Their granddaughter or daughter went to China and was kidnapped by that brat. How could this be? Ming Jiaxing, in particular, felt like he'd been struck by lightning. Years ago, due to a feud, his daughter was sent to her in-laws' home at birth. She wasn't brought back until she was 12, but after only a few years, she went away to study. She had finally finished her studies and could return home to be with her parents, but now she was getting married. How could this be? Ming Jiaxing was filled with resentment and grievances, but he couldn't vent them in front of his beloved daughter. He could only suppress his displeasure, hiding in a corner, silently fuming, looking utterly miserable. In contrast, Madame Ming, Ai Shiqing, was quite satisfied with her future son-in-law. As the saying goes, a mother-in-law's opinion of her son-in-law grows stronger with each passing year. Moreover, a handsome, refined, and talented young man like Zhou Mingchen was even more likely to win the favor of mothers-in-law. It was precisely because of the mediation of Ai Shiqing and her daughter Mingyao that Zhou Mingchen's meeting with the parents went relatively smoothly overall. After the two left, Ming Jiaxing was furious, pacing back and forth in the living room muttering, "If I had known she would be kidnapped last month, I shouldn't have let her come back to China. Now look what's happened. My daughter is almost gone." Sitting on the sofa, Ai Shiqing, annoyed by his nagging, couldn't help but say, "Stop talking nonsense. Does she stop being your daughter just because she's married? Such a good son-in-law is hard to find even with a lantern. Don't you want your daughter to be happy for the rest of her life?" Hearing his wife's words, Ming Jiaxing instinctively retorted, "Why wouldn't I want my daughter to be happy? Isn't Yao Yao still young?" 24 years old isn't young. Ai Shiqing glanced at her husband, calmly picked up her teacup, and took a sip. Seeing her husband still pacing back and forth, she couldn't help but continue. "All right, stop pacing. It's giving me a headache." Being related to Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi by marriage is something to be proud of. So many people envy you. Don't be ungrateful. Most importantly, look at the way Mingchen looks at our daughter, like she's a treasure. I think this son-in-law is perfect, so don't interfere. Ming Jiaxing's breath caught in his throat. How could he not know how good Zhou Mingchen was? Before this, he had repeatedly praised the boy's excellence. But wasn't this too sudden? He wasn't prepared at all. It felt like his daughter had suddenly been snatched away. How could he be happy? That's enough. If you keep going, I'll think you're just pretending. Ming Jiaxing. With both sets of parents meeting and the couple eager to marry, wedding preparations progressed rapidly. Zhou Mingchen and Mingyao's wedding was ultimately decided to be held on Yunxi Island. Yunxi Island was the name Yunxi gave to the islands she had purchased at an auction in Las Vegas years ago. After the island handover procedures were completed, Yunxi began arranging for their design and development. To this end, She also assembled a professional team for specialized management and subsequent operation. And Yunxi planned to develop this island as a top-tier tourism project. Although it was a private island, they might not be able to visit even once a year, making it seem wasteful to only serve her family. However, if it could be developed into a tourism project, generating income for tourists on a regular basis, while allowing her to visit whenever needed, it would be ideal. Thus, Yunxi Island began to boast a luxurious 7-star hotel, a large casino, a golf course, a large amusement park. At the same time, various tourism experience projects were built, and one beachfront resort villa after another was constructed. Helicopter island tours, skydiving, diving experiences on West Island, waiting for you in Flower Realm. A wide variety of tourism activities are available. Holding a large-scale wedding here is naturally no problem at all. However, aside from everything else, just arranging guest transportation, accommodation, and related reception work would be a huge undertaking. Of course, these are not major issues for their family. The day before the wedding, guests from both sides were gradually brought to the island and checked into the hotel. On the official wedding day, the entire Yunxi Island main island, including the surrounding smaller islands, was transformed and filled with a festive atmosphere. Among the invited guests were many well-known political and business figures, tech elites, and international and domestic entertainment stars. Many wedding guests and media outlets allowed to cover the wedding felt their eyes were opened. The scale and influence of this wedding surpassed even in Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan's wedding years ago. And Yunxi felt she had accomplished a major milestone with her son's marriage. Neither she nor Zhou Shiyan were in a rush to have grandchildren. However, to their surprise, many things that seemed to happen quickly came to pass. Just 3 months after Zhou Mingchen and Mingyao's wedding, news arrived that Mingyao was 3 months pregnant. Zhou Shiyan and Yunxi, the two, not yet fully prepared to become grandparents, were somewhat taken aback. How to describe the feeling? One moment, they felt they were in their prime, with many years of life ahead of them to enjoy. But the next moment, the arrival of their grandchild made them instantly feel old, without realizing it. And Yunxi glanced at Zhou Shiyan and teased with a smile. So, you're about to become a grandfather. How does it feel? The man didn't even flinch at her question, but squeezed her hand and asked in return, and how does it feel to become a grandmother? And Yunxi sighed, remarking, Ayn, we've grown old without us even realizing it. Not old at all, still so beautiful. And Yunxi looked at the earnest expression on his face and remained silent for a moment. Then, she smiled and said, Are you seeing things through a love-affirming lens? Beauty is in the eye of the beholder. That's probably what they mean. But Zhou Shiyan didn't quite agree with her words. He gently kissed in Yunxi's hand, then looked at her tenderly and said, You'll always be the most beautiful in my heart. Zhou Shiyan was a bit of a romantic at heart. And Yunxi was his first love and his wife. All his experiences and feelings in love were related to Yunxi. From the moment they met, Zhou Shiyan had always doted on her. Even after so many years of marriage, his attitude seemed unchanged. She didn't know about other couples' relationships, but the quiet, enduring affection between Yunxi and her husband made her feel very comfortable. Of course, and Yunxi didn't know that Zhou Shiyan shared the same thoughts. Now, the couple, soon to be grandparents, still had the same loving relationship as when they first got married, which was quite rare. It seems your plan to step back has to be postponed. Hearing Yunxi's words, Zhou Shiyan nodded somewhat helplessly. Give him 2 years. His daughter-in-law was pregnant and needed his son to spend more time with her. He couldn't expect his son to be busy with research, the family business, and worrying about his pregnant wife all at once. Even if his son was capable, he couldn't be so blatantly exploiting her. However, Zhou Shiyan's plan ultimately didn't work out. Because after Mingyao gave birth to a son, Gu Mingchen had an important research project underway. After he finished his research project, Mingyao became pregnant with their second child. This abruptly halted Zhou Shiyan's retirement plans. Zhou Shiyan, Mingyao, his wife, is quite something. She seems gentle and kind, but she manages both work and family exceptionally well. And Yunxi and Zhou Shiyan, as his parents never interfered with their decision about having children or how many. Zhou Mingchen also felt that children were necessary, but one was enough. But Mingyao didn't think so. She loved children and felt that one child was too few. Zhou Mingchen, unable to resist her persistent pleading, finally agreed to her plan for a second child. So, when their eldest son, Guziyu, was 4 years old, Mingyao gave birth to twins, a boy and a girl. Zhou Mingchen, now with a daughter, wore a more joyful and happy expression. Zhou Shiyan also adored his twin grandchildren, personally naming them Zhou Zai and Zhou Zishi. It wasn't until the twins were 5 years old that Zhou Shiyan finally realized his plan to retire and travel the world with Yunxi. That year, Zhou Shiyan was 62 years old, and Yunxi was already 57. Zhou Mingchen, forcibly burdened with a mountain of work, was on the verge of tears. Why couldn't his parents have had another child? If only he had a younger brother or sister to take over all this, he could focus on his research. It was at this time that Zhou Mingchen realized the immense wealth and businesses his parents controlled. Fortunately, these businesses were managed by reliable people, so he only needed to make decisions on major matters. Otherwise, he couldn't possibly manage everything, let alone have time for research. Zhou Mingchen quickly accepted this fact. In fact, Yunxi had already formulated development plans for many of the businesses she controlled beforehand. These plans were developed by her think tank after detailed research and repeated discussions. With the wealth and resources she possessed, as long as development proceeded step by step, there wouldn't be any major problems. After all, as a mother, she was very clear about her son's interests. Therefore, she had made many preparations. After her death, the system would choose one of her descendants to be its master. Then there would be even less to worry about. The only question was whether she would be transported to other worlds after her death. If she went to another world, where would Zhou Shiyan go? Yunxi had asked the system about this. Unfortunately, the system didn't know either. Yunxi stopped worrying about things she couldn't understand. Enjoy the present. Let's worry about the next life later. Zhou Mingchen's life had indeed been smooth sailing. Although his parents had handed over the family business to him, with people, money, and resources at his disposal, he didn't actually need to expend too much energy in that area. Therefore, his scientific research career wasn't significantly affected. On the contrary, because of these resources, he faced no obstacles or constraints in his research, and his projects progressed incredibly smoothly. While he might not have achieved much in business, Zhou Mingchen had certainly made significant progress in scientific research. As one research project after another he led yielded results, Zhou Mingchen carved out his own niche in the Chinese scientific community. Under the influence of Yunxi's various elixirs, Zhou Shiyan lived to the age of 126. At this time, he had 5 generations under one roof, a house full of children and grandchildren, and his beloved wife by his side. His life had no regrets. He passed away with a smile. After Zhou Shiyan's death, Yunxi chose to continue living in the courtyard house on Nanfeng Street. She and Zhou Shiyan had lived in this courtyard house for many years after their retirement, and it was filled with memories of their time together. On weekdays, only Yunxi and her caregiver were here, and she found it quite peaceful. On weekends, the children would come over for a gathering, allowing Yunxi a brief moment of family bliss. Lying in the rocking chair, watching the children playing in the yard, Yunxi couldn't help but recall her life's experiences. For some reason, Yunxi sensed that this body's time was running out. It was an indescribable feeling, but she could definitely sense it. System, have you chosen your successor? Yunxi silently asked in her mind. Host, yes, I have. It's this one in front of you. Yunxi looked up and saw a handsome, calm, and composed teenager. A resemblance to Zhou Shiyan could still be seen in his features, and his nose and mouth somewhat resembled Yunxi's in her youth. This was Yunxi's great-great-grandson, Zhou Yuanzhao, the oldest of this generation, already 15 years old. In Yunxi's memory, this child had always been intelligent, possessing exceptional IQ and a relatively calm personality. He seemed well suited to be either the new host of the system or the heir to the family. Thus, and Yunxi smiled slightly, thinking to herself, very good. That night, with all the children present, and Yunxi passed away peacefully in her sleep. That year, and Yunxi was 126 years old. The next morning, 99-year-old Zhou Mingchen went to his mother's room to wake her, only to find her lying motionless on the bed, her nose seemingly no longer breathing. He immediately pressed the call button. After examining her, the family doctor announced An Yunxi's death in front of the entire family. The old lady has passed away. Please accept my condolences. Zhou Mingchen's tears streamed down his face instantly. From this day forward, he lost not only his father, but also his mother. Amidst the sorrowful cries, Zhou Yuanzhao heard a voice in his mind. Ding! The Life Winner system has detected a qualified host. Binding is in progress. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Binding successful.
Ding!
Congratulations to the host for binding the Life Winner system. The host can view functions and personal information through the system panel. Please strive to complete tasks, improve yourself, and become a true life winner. Zhou Yuanzhao. His sorrowful tears paused for a moment, his mind filled with question marks. Meanwhile, in another dimension of the universe, An Yunxi opened her eyes. The old story has ended. A new story is about to begin. Among them are Zhou Yuanzhao's story, An Yunxi's story, and perhaps many more stories.
End.
Thank you for watching Manhwa Recap.